Yo, let's do this.
That Ludwig had for
Caroline
Lana. The bit was that because he couldn't get enough fixed streamers, we were canceled streamers, and that's why we couldn't show our faces because we were canceled streamers. Ludwig had said, "Wear these until the end." We were supposed to wear
Stream
the whole
elements.
thing, and then it was going to
Scrappy
be a
DP is
that
now
didn't
live.
last. First game
Streaming
was brutal.
Valorant,
I started off
December
the game
16th,
super
2023
strong,
still
the whole
child.
thing, and then it was going to be a reveal. That didn't last. First game was brutal. I started off the game super strong. All right, so this was the first game, and I then after this
Athleticism, peak athleticism. Oh, she's in trouble.
like what? Body slam. It looks cool. It looks iconic. Body slam. Okay, so then
Yeah,
I
no
started
shit. You
what
just went
was
straight to your
involved in
face,
that.
dude.
Also, I had 2 headshots yesterday. One of them was from Mr. Austin Cho. Austin Cho nailed me in the head in this first game. I am now homophobic, and I tried to hate him back. My throws were off. I couldn't breathe in the suit, so I just... Does anyone have the picture of Cutie on her knees? All 5 of the players on the opposing team gearing up to destroy her. That might be my favorite picture of all time. Yes. She just drops to her knees when she realizes that she's the last one. Cutie is great at a lot of things. Dodgeball is not one of them. Not her strong suit. They have no balls. She has all the balls. We lost a lot of good men that day. Cutie did take a headshot as well, and I believe it was from Will Neff. Here it comes.
What is Cutie Cinderella doing? It's not a headshot.
You can see me being like, what the? Right before we played the game, we were watching Ms. Kip destroy the people on Team Facebook. 4 out of 5 of whom were over the age of 50, and it turns out that they were paid actors. And Ms. Kip was winding up and laser beaming these shots, and they were so hard. And we were watching this and like, Jesus Christ! And Cutie was like, I swear to God, if someone hits me like that. And the next game, we played against them, and Will just laser beams her. And that's why I'm like, Will! If I had had predictions on how yesterday was going to go, I had faith in our team. I was like, we're going to be good. I thought that Team Chess Boxing and Team Podcast were going to be really good too. And I think they just got, I don't know. Here's what I'll say. I didn't expect YouTube to make it to the finals. And I don't think anybody did, including Team YouTube. No one on Team YouTube, I think, except for Ludwig, was wanting to like actually play in the tournament. Only the clip of the day, besides, I will say, my diving catch. So it was YouTube versus Twitch. There's 1 minute left. Twitch is up 3-2.
Nothing.
Michael throws. Dan! Mid-kick! Hits Emily, takes her out. Hassan misses.
Match
Michael
found.
Reeves. Right here. I think he went to dodge and he caught it in the crook of his arm. It was unbelievable. It turned everything around.
Here we go. Here's the attack.
And then he throws the ones. Oh my God. He literally throws it and hits Dan as the buzzer hits 0. This was the biggest comeback game. This was the most exciting game. Podcast versus Chess Boxing. Honestly, these 2 teams, I think if they had had different matchups, would have made it further than they did. They went into overtime. Both these teams had really solid players. I need to give Point Crow a special shout out. There he is. Okay, so Point Crow was incredible. Point Crow, I want to give a didn't expect it and was really surprised at how good he is. I know he was training for, he did chess boxing, Okay, so Myth goes out here, and now it's Point Crow.
I think Myth just wants to be out there dodging balls. He doesn't give a shit about the game.
Takes Cutie out.
Good job.
Takes Aiden out.
Can we get a heal? Can we get a heal, please?
Select your agent.
Oh my god.
See, Point Crow had some crazy throws. Yep, and then he got him there.
But we already have a Sage. I don't even play Sky.
Finals to go up against either chess
I'm a
boxing
Sage
or
main.
podcast. But then we ended up taking on chess boxing here, and this is when we did the reveal. And this is the headshot game. I had a pretty epic one here. I couldn't boxing. I had some crazy throw. Takes Cutie out. Takes Aiden out.
Remember, Neon, you are so much more than
See, Point Crow had some crazy throws. Yep, and then he got him there. I would have been more scared in the finals to go up against either chess boxing or podcast. But then we ended up taking on chess boxing here, and this is when we did the reveal. And this is the headshot game. I had a pretty epic one here. I couldn't breathe. I had to pull up my mask. I was like, I don't care. This was my 1v1 on Point Crow that he beat me. See, he was just really good. Like, he just kept dodging everything. I don't have the cardio to just be throwing back-to-back balls like that. So when I would get in these 1v1s, I'd be like, oh my god. We were down, and so I could hear my team behind me like, hurry up, hurry up. I'm like,
It's at a really tough angle.
he just, look at him. Like, what the
Body shot multiple times. They're not easy to catch.
everything. I don't have the cardio to. I would have been more scared in the finals to go up against either chess boxing or podcast. But then we ended up taking on chess boxing here, and this is when we did the reveal. And this is the headshot game. A pretty epic one here.
Euro coming to you from our spawn.
I was like, I don't care. This was my 1v1 on Point Crow that he beat me. See, he was
Said
just
where?
really good.
Spawn, coming from spawn.
Dodging everything.
Euro.
I don't have the cardio to just be throwing back-to-back balls like that. So when I would get in these 1v1s, I'd be like, oh my god. We were down, and so I could hear my team behind me like, hurry up, hurry up. I'm like,
It's at a really tough angle.
he just, look at him. Like, what the?
one enemy remaining.
They're not easy to catch. They're very
Nice.
I don't even know how to play this girl.
What? Then why did you pick Sky?
Because you yelled at me that we needed heals, buddy.
I didn't.
Again, you have to throw a ball. You
Well,
can't-
your other alpha friend did.
Catch. He's trying to get for that ball. Oh,
Yeah. So
Bro,
Gen
So
Alpha
I grabbed Will. I was like,
in the
I
house.
can't see in this thing. I was just kind of losing my mind.
That
all
was
that
legit
dripping in
brimstone,
sweat.
not
He goes,
me.
all right, we're taking him off.
Well, yeah, whoever you are, both of you sound like you're about
Taking him off.
8.
wait a minute.
We're older than 8, you dipshit.
Oh, now we're gonna talk to a 40-year-old man and call him a dipshit?
Will
Do you want me to bring out my verbal game on you, buddy?
How about you hop on this game, you freaking old bastard?
My old bastard? What the fuck's wrong with you? Why are you talking to me like that, you little bitch? Don't make me put you in your place. I'll slap you around like your mom and your dad did.
Door.
Show some fucking respect.
No. Just neutral, just.
My ult's not ready.
Oh, I know how to heal.
As soon as the mask came off, I felt like a new person. I did. I could see, I could breathe. Now, let's do this. Because we were down. We were down to nothing.
Sapnap with a laser to the knee. You like that one, Ted?
I did. I got a good chuckle out of me. You know, I was hoping that when they took their masks off, I would sort of be like an anime. Sort of,
Yeah,
you haven't seen my true power.
I think that was the idea, and what happened is really hard to breathe in there.
Oh yeah.
And
Enough
spike carrier's
sweat
down.
in
30
there.
seconds
That's
left.
saying it right now.
Spike down A. One enemy remaining.
Sapnap coming in with a.
Last player standing.
You made this happen, Sage.
I'm a dipshit.
Reyna, time to hunt.
We win this game. When we went down 2-0 to chess boxing, I thought we were out. I thought we were gonna come out, be super strong, because we were a really good team. We go down 0-2, I said, oh my god. And then mask off, I was like, okay, we can come back.
And he's quick feet.
That needs to calm down a little bit.
You gotta respect the line.
Little Matt needs to calm down a little bit.
He's going for an ambitious.
Dude, if he went mask off, just went, you know, he was playing hard, and then he just fully
We
unleashed.
got a hill over here. Okay.
Here.
All right. Well, I don't know. I think he raised up the rep.
We'll play by the rules.
He's handsome, and he's got that cool guy swagger.
Got the spike.
Ooh, shut down to the laser again. TK Williams is out. Yeah, he is out. Got hit in the
Just little
knee.
sappy nappy versus.
Two big
Sapad
Sage there on my body.
Oh, that was a valuable knockout. A point knockout.
Okay.
One enemy remaining.
Sapnap. Not a lot here, isn't it? Oh, it's over. Sapnap.
Okay, now I think the next game is the headshot.
All right, we're back, and we're back. Well, that comes in. He took off the clothes.
Last player standing.
Oh yeah, Will
Spike
took his
down
voice
A.
off.
Clutch.
Bro.
Oh, again, Carolyn, really good at placing a ball in a
Hi.
place you cannot
Fight's
have
not over, you know.
Somebody opening doors, and I know this sounds crazy. We couldn't see. The light that was coming in from outside, like, blinded us. Oh, there was the TV shot. Hold on.
Carolyn, really good at placing a ball in a place you cannot have. Will Knapp going just for the TV.
Why did they put the TVs right behind both sides of a
I got yous,
dodgeball game?
okay?
Ludwig was just asking to lose money on that. So, they opened the doors, and we just start screaming, "Close the door!"
It's new gas. I think it's exhaustion. I think you're right. Yeah, just the fact that they were.
Was it you? So Slay.
Plant the spike.
Plant the spike.
Ludwig, do you know what he did? That Ludwig set it up. So Chessboxing, which is Mogul Moose team, and then his team, the first match that they played a team who had already played. AKA giving the
Dude, we're getting shot. Oh, no.
of having more stamina. So make no mistake, Ludwig was 15 the tournament. So
Last
we had
player
beat him.
standing.
Caroline in the face. The reason why it knocked me down is because I did not see it coming at all. Those balls are not hard, but they will stun you.
I learned something.
And Stan threw it really hard. He's got a hard throw. Ball, I turn, boom. Literally did not see it coming at all. Did not see that ball at all until it smashed me in the face.
Will Knapp comes down heroically. She's nodding that she's okay. I do think it shocked her. Stan's coming over saying, "Hey man, I fucking."
You know what? It couldn't have been done by a nicer guy, but Stans is confirmed to be a misogynist, and it just goes to show, even the nice ones, even the nicest guys, you just never know. No, he felt so bad, and I kept telling him, I was like, I'm not the only person who's been hit in the face, and I know you didn't do it on purpose, okay? You're Nathan Stans. You're like the nicest dude, but also secretly a misogynist.
Stan's ass.
I was shocked at the misogyny.
Take it out.
Alright, heal me. Guys me.
Last player standing.
No, we could not.
Spike down A.
Misogyny. I call it now again. Headshots.
The worst part is when the ref goes in
These
and out.
parasites
and,
aren't gonna
because I
take
didn't think
one
headshots
step
were allowed.
past
That
this
was one thing
place.
that they told us.
Can
They were
someone
like,
get this?
no headshots. So I thought, okay, I took a ball to the face, but at least I'm still in. And then the ref goes, yeah, I'm sorry, you're still out.
If we see targeting happen, it will be an out. So if Stans gets another headshot, I mean, he's out. He's not allowed to get one.
We're gonna slow this down.
I feel like it did. It was shooting her face.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, and Kate from laughing. You saw for a quarter of a second. I'm not even kidding you. Even if I saw it, I
Spike
didn't
carries
register
down.
it at all.
Spike
it was
down
100% a complete shot. Turn on its back. Oh my god. Hassan has one of the most loyal.
Last player standing.
35.
My ult's ready.
And it's funny because there are people who are the biggest Hassanati fans in the world, who outsiders, who actual haters of Hassan, probably hate Hassan too.
After this.
Every time Hassan is involved with something, the memes, they are top tier. They asked me to commentate, and I was like, no, we were terrible. We were so bad. We were so bad, but it was fun. We had some decent moments of commentating, but then we also would get off track. There was also one part when I tried to set up a joke. I tried to set up a joke about Eric being point crow, you know, what do you call a flock of crows? And I wanted Cutie to be like, a murder. And instead,
What they call a flock of crows. You don't
Enemy spotted. Enemy spotted. Fire in the hole. Enemy
but
spotted.
it was the most out-of-pocket cutie line ever. I was setting up the joke. A murder of crows, okay? Because people have been murdering out there. And she just goes,
Last player
you don't
standing.
eat cum? Leslie immediately tried to like, no. I was setting up the joke. A murder of crows, okay? Because Point Crow had been murdering out there. And she just goes, you don't eat cum?
Easy 8.
Seek them out.
No.
Easy 8. No.
Found one.
That's like
Like,
the bird next
oh
time.
boy, and the sponsors are watching.
What are you telling me to do now?
So we get to the
The
final.
bird.
And
So it's
also,
the
Michael and Ludwig do look like father and
Bro.
They're matching shirts. This is where Ray, I think.
I have a better Sky
Kill
experience.
them before they kill us.
You have a better what experience?
Alright.
A Sky
Alright,
experience.
I missed.
I played Sky.
I missed this.
Well, why did you steal my Sage then? We could have alternated. You could have taken Sky and I could have taken Sage.
Oh, my buddy told me to play Sage, so.
Wesley throwing it.
Yeah.
Pull your socks up.
2v2. Not by with- Oh my god.
No, he was not throwing. No. Leslie earned that.
But it's not over yet. It's a 1v1.
Our spike carrier's down.
Spike down A.
Hits the ground of the first one. She's got to mean it. Oh.
Enemy spotted.
Last player standing.
This is the cutest
Spike's
picture from yesterday.
Same way. So Moises actually crossed the line. This is cute. He takes a backhand from Will Neff.
That was nuts. You're nuts.
He started doing the backhand throws.
Will.
So, let me point at his half-hazard. How are you in? And he said, I was never out. And guess what? I'm mad about it. Why didn't Logan pick up that ball? See, it's hard. And you focus a lot. You're so ball focused.
Make sure to follow my pack in. They'll lead us right to the enemy.
The ref does not like it. But he's letting that play. Because he needs to keep him alive.
When it came to the line, every single person at one point stepped out of a line. I was like seeing some comments and stuff where it was like so and so was always out of line, so and so stuff. I was like, oh, who cares? Who cares? Everybody was stepping out of line. Myth, you want to do a redo? I think we should run it back
Wait,
because
can you
I
go
gotta be
somewhere other
honest,
than
buddy.
A? I feel like we
You
keep going
are
and
so
just
powerful, and you are in
let's
insanely
go.
good shape.
Let's
Your
go
cardio is better
mid
than most
to,
people. I think
C.
mythological-
Let's go to elementary school.
Do I have to go far? Oh, you mean this whole bar? This right here means the end of me doing anything else because I'm retiring on this. See you guys later. Here's the gold bar. Not to be confused with a little piece of chocolate.
It should not count if they're out of play when they make the set.
Spike down.
Well, you
mid.
need to go back to elementary school.
Okay, this was why I was hoping that I would sacrifice myself and that Will Neff would come in with the kill. That did not happen. This was the only moment I
Last
think we were
player
not in sync.
standing.
But I think Will was too busy thinking about what could I do for content. Big Leslie catch.
She's playing with him.
Yeah.
He's trying.
No, he wasn't. He threw that so she could catch it.
Sapnap the only one left, and he's got no.
Aw, I love Lily.
That do it. Blair Witch.
Will and I wanted to make it really close, but then basically we got
We
down.
move as a
There was only a
unit,
minute
okay?
left.
Last thing
And
I
we
need
couldn't
is some
expect- we
hero
couldn't
messing
expect
things
our
up.
team to throw. I really wanted to go into overtime. As exhausted as I was so tired. As exhausted and broken as I was, like, it was so great to go into overtime against Team YouTube. But I also wanted to win. But I felt confident we would win, even if we started to throw and then went into overtime.
Bro, it's blocked from Sekuno.
Oh.
Safety's off.
Will was going after
Oh,
him.
let's go see. Let's go see.
Right here.
Mid to see, mid to see.
Watch out for that molly. That molly is
That mullet.
You
Watch out for that
kill
mullet.
my allies. Healing over
Will
here.
not kill my ally.
Time to hunt.
I think Simon's my favorite commentator.
Watch my
Versus the
elbow.
world at its own event.
This is such a great way to end all of us versus Lud commentating.
And it's Ludwig versus the world at its own event.
This was such a great way to end all of us versus Ludwig.
They're all
Here's
in
the
there.
moment.
Last player standing.
Okay,
freaking.
it's hard to see because the
I
camera cuts it off. So Michael froze.
Bro, I got 2 clean headshots.
Maybe Jets have ever seen. She got a diving catch. Michael is out.
I didn't really do anything, not gonna lie.
Don't you hit my girlfriend as Ludwig ran over. Your shadow shows how long the dive was. I don't even, like, it's weird because in my
No more
mind, I didn't
doubts.
even think to
We're
myself,
ready.
oh, I'm gonna die for this. I just suddenly
Alright, man
saw
said,
the
man
ball
said, don't do
fly
it again.
off
Now
of
we're gonna
Will's
do
ball, and I just went for it. That was pure instinct, baby. And then Ludwig loses on the easiest catch. Watch this throw. Mo softballed this.
At the end.
Right here.
I have your back.
At its own event by the Kings team.
Open up the sky.
Hell yeah. Free kill.
Reload.
Molly.
Go, go, go.
So tired.
My ult ready.
One down.
Sage's garage.
Spike down. C.
I need an ice bath.
And I hit her 114.
Hawk out.
Neon, bro.
Last
Neon,
player
you good, bro?
standing.
Neon, you good?
Nah, I'm not
Did
good.
you surprise? No, I didn't.
No, I
And then
can
when
tell,
you
'cause
realized,
you're
I was
1 in
like,
11.
Oh, this is just a bit. Like, this is fake.
My little dude, you need to have some self-awareness, buddy.
Who you calling
So
buddy?
heavy. That's just how strong
You
I am.
pal.
Last round in the
I'm
half.
not your pal or your buddy.
Don't look back.
That's how I know it's real.
Hey, little bro.
You see, the budget wasn't that crazy.
Neither
You know,
your
the
bro.
YouTube bill wasn't as good as it used to be.
You're the scum of the world, though.
Right here.
Oh. That's real gold.
It felt as much as I was like there were other people in the tournament who certainly put on a good show. I will not lie. It felt great to get MVP. It is an honor every single time, even if it's just like, you know, a fun, silly dodgeball tournament. It is an honor because I do put 150,000% into whatever I do, but especially when it involves athletics. And so it feels good to be rewarded for absolutely annihilating my body.
We don't. Oh, it's such a.
Last player standing.
Heal up, squad.
0-10 on Team Arena.
Why do you have that Phantom with no aura? Why does that not have any upgrade?
Right
Switching
here.
sides.
What will it be this time? Have any patterns emerged yet?
Likely because I don't care about the Barbie doll clothing for my guns. Like you, Gen Alpha.
Bro,
Now you're calling me your bro, but I thought we weren't brothers.
nah, I wasn't talking to you. I
No,
meant to
okay,
talk
yeah,
in
cool,
party
yeah,
chat.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
I meant to talk in party chat.
Move.
Can you put your mom on the headset for a minute?
Spike planted.
What do you call a cow with no legs? Ralph.
Last player standing.
One dead.
Team Ace.
Stay alive. I want their life, not yours.
Do you think pre-built laptops are cowards? What's the solution for you? Meet the new design 16.1-inch LCD screen industrial server chassis computer case with 3 PCIe slots. On top of such groundbreaking features as monitor, keyboard, and handheld, it's capable of housing a 260mm GPU and a
Spike planted.
desktop CPU and motherboard. And I mean, shoot. There have been briefcase computers for nearly as long as there have been forums to brag about them on. But this is the first time that I have seen a ready-made, mass-produced briefcase chassis. And if you're looking for a portable
Blinded.
game at a LAN, handle heavy on-site video editing, or house specialized PCIe extension cards that your weak friend's laptop just can't,
Last player standing.
fill that void. Or, given it below the side, fill just about any void.
Yo, Neon, are you okay, bro?
I'm not. No.
Match point.
What happened?
Their new
I'm
StatSense
just-
cables eliminate the need
it's
for
just
sense
not-
wires,
not
which means
today.
no more fragile pins in your cables that will bend if you insult
Would you
someone.
know I would be like popping
We're
off?
at the end of this video. Now I have to confess to you
Not
guys,
really, actually.
when we started to shoot here, I thought we kind of.
But, like, would you normally
Usually
do?
not.
Only when your mom's on her knees.
Videos that I'm supposed to build the computer in it. You can't build it over it. No, it's just that heavy without any of the actual hardware in it. To its credit, though, it seems pretty rugged.
Right
Yo,
over
Scott,
your head.
your
Right over
hair
your
is
head.
freaking
These great
sticking
rubber corner
straight
pieces
up
that
like that
should
one
protect
character
it
from the
against incidental
Rugrats.
bumps and bruises. It's got this stamped reinforcement
What does that even
pattern
mean?
And you always be
protecting
singing
LCD
that
on the other
one
side.
freaking song
And
from the line
seems to be machined
from the
out of
Rugrats.
solid
You
aluminum
are
for the
so
most part.
beautiful because
That would
you get
explain
no
the weight.
girls.
Also, there's the fact that it's not entirely
Spike
empty.
planted.
We've got what
You are so beautiful to me.
Thank you. That's really nice of you. It's like,
Okay, a scaler, some kind of driver board for the integrated monitor. That makes sense. There's your HDMI input.
Last player
Or at least it
standing.
makes more sense than the VGA cable that is hanging out the rear of it.
Your mama so say
Really?
stop. Your mama so
This,
she
that's
thought
the...
LGBTQ
We're
was a
gonna have to find
sandwich.
another way. Kicking off the build with our CPU, we've gone with the Ryzen 7 7800 X3D. And what's remarkable about this choice is how unremarkable.
well, you're
What did
throwing.
you
You're
do? Because you got
Win.
What makes a solution like this
Well,
so
Scott, you're
good?
throwing.
This is a
and you
great
got reported too.
While it is
Oh no.
a 120-watt chip going into a system where we might want to keep power consumption low due to cooling constraints or in case we ever have to run off battery off-grid, AMD tends to baby these 3D V-cache chips pretty hard, and they keep voltages so low for better reliability that real-world power draw is rarely more than 80 watts, depending on the cooler. I think this is going to perform really well in here. Of course, can't do anything on its own, and we needed to pair it with an appropriate motherboard. We've gone with the Gigabyte B650i Aorus Ultra. Now, I want to note that the A620iAX would almost certainly have been good enough, and come with a significant discount. However, we preferred the more robust I/O of the Ultra, especially given our limited PCIe expansion. The standout features on this one were the extra USB ports Intel 2.5 gig Ethernet, and the extra M.2 storage slots. It's worth noting that not everything about this board was an upgrade for us. V1.1 of this one uses Intel Wi-Fi, and V1.2 shares the same Realtek chip as the A620i. However, we rolled a natural 1 and got V1 from our local computer shop, which unfortunately uses an AMD RZ616 Wi-Fi chipset from MediaTek. For our SSD, we've gone with the Samsung 980 Pro. That's a lie. This is clearly a 970 Evo Plus, but we would have used the 980 Pro. It's just the labs borrowed them all. See, we wanted to use something like this AlphaCool Ice Bear Pro ES. Look at it. It's an 80mm AIO cooler. It's so small and cute. But even coolers like this one, designed for low-profile 2U chassis, are either too long or too thick to fit in our luggable here. So we'll have it linked down below with all the rest of the hardware that we're using, in case there's a cool project that you have in mind for it. But we had to settle for the next best thing, the Noctua NH-L12S. Or more specifically, an L12S with the fan mounted on the bottom. That wasn't a step we thought we'd have to take. In fact, the Alibaba listing says that it can fit an 85mm tall cooler, while this is only 70mm. It's just that with the motherboard installed, this just barely fits as it is. So I guess they just, didn't account for that? Before we put it in there though, we need some mounting hardware, some thermal compound, and some figuring out what orientation is going to work for us here. That is extremely tight. We seem to be getting good contact, so I think we're good to go. Good to go, and make sure we install our RAM first. With a CPU cooler like this, we need low-profile RAM, and the best options we could find are the Ripjaws S5 and Flare X5, both from G.Skill. We ended up with the S5s running in a 2x16 gig kit at 6,000 megatransfers per second, CL36, but none of those speeds and feeds are what really matter to us. What matters is... oh wow, is that ever tight? No, I'm sure we're gonna get it in there. We just gotta remove this crossbrace. There we go. See you later, crossbrace. And oh, look at this. How perfect is that? This intake fan goes right into our little cavern of where air can go into this impenetrable fortress. Or at least it would if it was an intake fan. It's an exhaust right now. Let's get that turned around. Look at this. In there with the stubby screwdriver. Got that low ratchet back force. We are going to get that screw out. Oh, yeah, strong magnet. Question for you, Tanner. Have we considered replacing this extremely generic fan with something a little better? This guy's way ahead of me. This guy's way ahead of me. All right. I am worried a little bit about this, though. Noctua fans perform well for their sound profile, but they don't necessarily spin that fast. And you might just need to push more air into this thing than that fan will do. But I guess we'll have to see how it goes. There we go, and wow! That looks freaking awesome! And raises a lot of questions like, is there enough room for a GPU in here? And the answer is yes. And not just any GPU. That's right, we found it. The one case, where it makes sense to spend randomous amounts of money on an RTX 4070. You see, you can hate on the 40 series all you want, for good reasons, like their pricing. But you can't fault NVIDIA's style when it comes to performance per watt. And this is far and away the most performant GPU that we could find that is under 260 millimeters in length that can run on a 600 watt power supply or less. Oh, speaking of which, we're going to be using this FX600 Platinum from Silverstone. Why? Because it's super cool. It's 600 watts, Cybernetics Platinum certified, Flex ATX, meaning it should fit in our system with no difficulty whatsoever. We ended up using this Cable Mod 180-degree adapter. By the way, it's the older one. I recommend getting the newer one that has fewer problems. And it'll go in a little something like so. But we still have a problem. Where is this GPU going to get any airflow from? These pass-through cards, where they suck air in the one side and blow it right out the back, are great for small form factor builds. assuming that there's a natural airflow path through the card. In this case, there is not. All we've got is this passive, what is now an exhaust. Train's coming into the station, boys! 4 hours later. And 4 little holes. Success! We've got a filtered intake. Now, we won't actually have a fan on it. Those holes are just there so we can put a little filter on it. But that should give our GPU much better access to fresh air from the outside. Oh, but I almost forgot. We need to replace that VGA cable with an HDMI cable. And before we put the motherboard in is the best time to do that. This is a very long HDMI cable. Is this our shortest
so we
cable?
have a shorter one with this yellow one here, but I think it might be a little too short.
That's great. Much
on.
better. Here we go. Now
Enter
we're
CAD.
talking. See you later, VGA.
Oh, you hung it.
Did I really?
Yeah.
I can't even see it.
Where? No,
Where'd it go?
that didn't hit the ground.
Oh, I see it.
Where did it go?
Oh yeah.
Oh! Now, I was about to put in the PCIe riser for our GPU. In fact, I will just put that in since that won't interfere with any of this. But then I realized I gotta deal with all the front I/O, the trackpad, keyboard, and power button and all that stuff. We just put the top panel here and then, oh man, jeez. This is a very kludgy build process. And we just need to add a USB connection for the trackpad and the keyboard, and we're pretty much good to go. Let's throw this GPU in. Now, I know you guys are probably thinking, gee, Linus, that's a really long PCIe riser for such a short run. And you're right. But the issue was we wanted to run at Gen 4 speeds, and there's a distinct lack of 10 centimeter Gen 4 risers. So this is what we ended up with, and we're pretty sure it'll kind of, you know, right? Thing I love about new power supply standards. It's like, yeah, we've got this 12-pin high power. It does all this other stuff and blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the day, it's just one 8-pin with a daisy chain, and as long as you have the right adapter, everything's hunky-dory. Little trick, though, by the way, guys. It can be really hard to get in and plug these dual 4-pins in when they don't lock together. So you can just use a little piece of tape to hold them together while you get them aligned. And with all the cables tucked away, are we ready for first boot? Kind of seems like it. I just can't believe how easy this was. Like, we've started the conversation around doing a suitcase PC so many times, and every time it goes something like, oh yeah, we should totally do one of those. Okay, what would make ours stand out? Oh, it would be like a 3-month-long project because everyone's basically done every idea. Okay, fine, forget it. We'll kick it down the road. No, we don't have to. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. Delete, 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 delete. Oh, no way! This is so cool! She's done. Yes. Wow. That is pretty sleek. For a clunky desktop shaped like a laptop, but man, oh, wow. Oh, that's heavy. Wow. What does this weigh? Oh, incredible. This trackpad, though. What is this from 1998? I didn't even notice before. It's fantastic. How's the keyboard? Very awful. You know, considering how much total depth they have in this machine, you'd think they might have been able to keep the keyboard from having so much flex. And before you ask, no, that's not what that brace was for. This is almost certainly 60 hertz, 1080p. Yep. Never mind that a few more hertz wouldn't have hurt them too much on the bottom line, but this is what we got. At least it's not TN like it would have been in the old days, though. The viewing angles are fine, and the brightness is very usable. I mean, everything about this feels ridiculous. I have no idea what I'm cleaning right now. It does look pretty cool, and it has, okay, maybe not all the advantages of a laptop, you know, not having a battery and all that, but just the fact that it's just so packable And it has all the advantages of a desktop pretty much. If I didn't want to use this monitor because it wasn't suitable for whatever I was doing, I don't have to. I could plug into my ample desktop class rear I/O and just use a whole different set of peripherals. Whoa, what just happened? Everyone just flipped out. Anyway, the point is, clearly the game's running okay. I'm at the ultra preset at 1080p, and I'm running at 120 FPS with 1% lows at 85. This is smooth. Is anyone chasing me? Oh, sorry. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. My hand though, no lie, getting freaking uncomfortable. Hey, look, we got a thermal camera. Let's quantify this. Wow. 48 degrees. Shut up. 49. Can we reach 50? Over 50 degrees on the keyboard. That is hot enough to hurt you. Meanwhile, the wrist rest is at a frigid 44.5. Since I've got it out, you can really see we are not exhausting much hot air over here. There's no real track on the desk pad next to it. Meanwhile, by the GPU, yeah. That's where all the heat is leaving the system. We're drawing cold air in over here. Oh, okay. Some exhaust is just being thrown out this side too. Interesting. This vent's pulling double duty. The GPU is drawing air from the bottom of it and then exhausting air at the top of it. I don't even know if this thing is peaked yet. Well, I was measuring the back. Yeah, the keyboard got up to 53 and the wrist rest has reached 46. This wouldn't be legal to release, at least in this configuration. As for why I'm still trying to do it, well, I couldn't explain that to you. Ow. Okay, how hot is the part of my arm that I had on there? 42. It's already cooling a little bit, but it's over 40 just from having my wrist on it. That's normal. You know what's not running hot though? Is our CPU and GPU. We're sitting at around 80 degrees on both of them, which is okay, not the best temperatures I've ever seen before, but far from the point of thermal throttling. That is flipping awesome, and it goes to show you, like, what have we got in here? One 80mm fan, power supply fan, and then repurposing our GPU fan as an intake. That's it. It's not about how much airflow you've got, it's about how you use it. With that said, I think there's more we could do to stress this thing. Let's hit it with Furmark and Cinebench at the same time. Here we go. That's pretty loud. I think it's pretty okay. It is definitely getting louder now, but I think it's pretty reasonable. Whoa! I think it's gotten even hotter. Yup. The wrist rest has cracked 50. The keyboard has... Whoa. Did I see 60? Still though, our GPU is just shy of 2.5 gigahertz and our CPU hasn't thermal throttled yet. For the price, I'd be thrilled with this thing. $400 for chassis, keyboard, trackpad, and monitor. I mean, yeah, it's not a real laptop. And if you wanted to run it off grid, you would have to bring along a portable battery bank or solar generator or whatever the case may be. But given that it's probably rugged enough to travel a little bit, some reasonable use cases for something like this could be, I mean, sure, gaming like we showed before, but that's not the intention. I'm thinking more along the lines of compute-intensive on-location work, like you might encounter in filmmaking or scientific endeavors. Similar portable workstations are available as pre-builts to serve these industries, but if you have to ask how much they cost, you can't afford them. Like, seriously, guys. The ones we found from Next Computer start at $8,000, and that's without a professional GPU in them yet, and they go up past 25 grand. Our machine weighs in at around $2,000. It does have some drawbacks. I mean, one is that MaCase, the seller, doesn't include a jacket to protect it from the elements, so if you're carrying it around briefcase style and it starts to rain, your system's going to end up water-cooled in all the worst ways. But for the amount of money you'd have left over, you could probably track down a tailor to fashion a suit for it out of fine Italian leather and still have enough money left over to fly business class to Milan with your super stylish luggable as your carry-on item. Now, with that wrapped up, if you'll just allow me to make a brief case for our sponsor, CableMod. Their StealthSense cables eliminate the need for sense wires that run from your GPU to your power supply. Instead, the connector uses a hidden bridge to tell the GPU that up to 600 watts of delicious pulp-free juice is ready to be slurped. The juice is electricity. Using this hidden bridge instead of a sense wire means there's no tiny fragile sense pins in the cables which can dislodge themselves at the slightest provocation. And that's good news because dislodged pins can lead to issues like 100% fan utilization or black screens, which make it much harder to see what your PC is doing and make it sound like a Boeing 747 taking off. So stop compromising on your cables. Get peak performance, high reliability, and cleaner aesthetics with CableMod's Stealth Sense cables. You can check them out on Amazon or at CableMod's own website, linked down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, why not check out our build in the Dan-K C4 SFX? It's kind of like this, but actually good for putting on your desk and using day to day. Hold on, actually, before you guys go, we'll do one more check-in and see if it's gotten any hotter. It just keeps going. It's at 55 on the trackpad now.
Oh, okay, rumor time. We're getting pretty close to some facts here, though, and we're going to talk about the latest from potentially NVIDIA and why it honestly just pisses me off. Anyway, this rant brought to you by V1Tech makes it easy to create your dream setup with a wide range of customizable PC parts, desk and wall art, gaming mats, custom phone cases, and more. Choose from existing designs or create your own to bring your favorite art to life, allowing you to truly make your setup your own. And V1Tech is proud to announce their all-new RGB Shadowbox wall frames featuring addressable RGB lighting and swappable artwork, allowing you to change the look and feel of your setup quickly and easily with no tools necessary. Start creating your dream setup with V1Tech by following the links in the description below. All right, let me preface this by saying I do not have any embargo information. I do not have any NDA stuff like currently. So I can't talk about rumors and stuff if I've received information and be like, oh my gosh, the rumor to stay, because that's just weird, right? And anyway, so it's important to kind of, it's fun actually, to speculate a little bit, see if these rumors hold true and stuff. So today's rumor mill is brought to you courtesy of Tom's Hardware. By the way, I want to point out I have never had a website make me want to install an ad blocker more than Tom's Hardware. I've closed all these, but they just, whatever. Side rant. Today we're talking specifically about the RTX 40 series rumors, and what I was initially going to just talk about being the 4080 Super. But I can tell you, but there's more cards on here. Why does this ad keep opening back up? There's more cards on this list than I was kind of expecting, and some naming that Phil and Nick and I were actually joking around with that might actually be true. I will tell you this, though. There has been some communications anonymously heading my way saying, Bolo, or be on the lookout. So I don't have any specs, so I can't say if the specs and pricing and naming and all that's true, but I can tell you something's coming. I think everyone knows that by now. And if anything, regarding like the whole China embargo, China market stuff with like the 4080 Dragon or whatever they called it that was specific to that region taught us, and that's why there were such shortages, it looks like, is like the 4080, 4090 dies were kind of being reallocated to a regional chip or a regional SKU that was okay to be sold in China. And I think that's now going to just sort of make its way worldwide, but with different naming. I think they called it Dragon or whatever for the one that was for the specifically the China market. Moving forward, Tom's Hardware here is reporting that there is rumored to be a 4080 Super. No surprise there. The only real surprise is the fact they didn't use the term Super for the 30 series. Those were TIs, but then 20 series they had Supers, and they had 1650 Supers and 1660 Supers and 1660 TIs and all that stuff, but they were separate. This is reporting now that there's going to be a 4070 Super and a 4070 Ti Super. Now, we already have a 4070 and a 4070 Ti. So does that mean we're going to have a 4070, a 4070 Super, a 4070 Ti, and a 4070 Ti Super, plus now the rumored, well, the existing 4080, which by the way is an MSRP of $1,200, we'll talk about that in a second, and a 4080 Super, and then potentially we have 4090, and then potentially a 4090 Super, or is it 4090 Ti? Whatever. The chart's right here. They're calling it 4090 Ti. It's got these ones that have asterisks on there. These are rumored. So source for these, IT Home, X Preview, and Hassan Mujaba, I can't remember how to say his name. These are the usual suspects when it comes to the rumors, by the way. And most of the time they're pretty correct. They've got a really good track record, but they're not always exactly on the directly on the bullseye. So let's talk about the 4070 stuff first. Currently, the cost of a RTX 4070 is about $549 for AIB cards, right? Because I think $499 is the MSRP for a 4070. So if we look at the 4070 Ti, which does currently exist, we're now looking at a pretty significant jump up to what, about 700, the upper 700s? So that means the 4070 Super has to be between the 550-ish, 500 to 550 for MSRP / and then third-party cards tend to be more than MSRP, and 750. That's a $200 price range there. So yeah, it's going to be weird to see that gap filled by one card, because then it's going to really clutter up the top of the stack. So if we look at alleged pricing here, it's rumored that the recommended retail price of the 4070 Ti Super, so stupid to say, is $799 to $849. Now that price point right there sort of holds water in my opinion, because I just showed you that upper 700s is to sorry, I just saw that pop up in the corner of my eye. Upper 700s for the 4070 Ti, and then 4070 Super Ti would obviously be above that. So that kind of makes sense. But what happens if we look at this chart now, and we see right here, the 4080 is at 8103 with 9728 FP32 CUDA cores and 16 gigabytes of 256-bit GDDR6X. And the 4080 Super is rumored to also be an 8103 with 10,240, so an extra 512 with essentially the same memory. So currently the price right now of an RTX 4080 is approximately $1,200 and up. So you'll see some of these models right here, which are actually a little below MSRP. Like B&H Photo has this 4080 for $1,179. That's actually, what, $20 below MSRP for a custom card. Sort of makes sense because of the fact they've not been selling well, unfortunately, recently, because of the shortages, because of the reallocation of dies for the China market. They went back up momentarily. We did a video about that, and now they've kind of come down fairly quickly since they're available again. What does that mean for the pricing of the 4080? That means it has to drop because of the fact that you cannot have a card that is going to be faster than it, cost less than it. Well, Jay, where are you getting this cost less than? Well, the rumor is $999 because this is theoretically the same die that they reallocated and sort of made for the China market. Because remember, one of the embargo reasons was the price. So $999 and below is kind of like where the market had to be. Like they had to meet that requirement of $999 or less for the China market. And so they had to make a card fit there. So if they wanted to make a fast card, because realistically they could have just taken 4080s, relabeled them, repriced them, and sold them, but they didn't. They made a different SKU out of it. And the rumor is also that the 8103 for the 4080 Super is fully unlocked, which means there would be no room for 4080 Ti Super on the same die. That does not mean they couldn't make a 4080 Ti Super on the 8102 that's even more locked than the 4090 currently is. Because we know that 8102 at 16384 CUDA cores is not fully unlocked. Theoretically, that's what the 4090 Ti would be. But we're not even going to talk about that today. I have very little reason to believe that the 4090 Ti is what we're going to be talking about in January when these launches are expected to take place. So the part that makes me angry, and I said at the beginning of this video, is like, this makes me mad, is this shows like the blatant just cost gouging and greed. Because if we're talking about a more unlocked 8103, that would mean lesser yields, right? Because the higher the CUDA core counts, the less yields there tends to be just through the manufacturing process. Now, sure, we are looking at more than a year now of manufacturing process maturity. Typically, the yields improve as the manufacturing continues. The process gets better. So practice makes perfect, right? But if we're going to be dropping it $200 down to the $999 price point, and it's even faster, we know now that means the 4080 has to be somewhere around the $899 to $849 range. So now we're talking $250 to $300 cheaper. So there's a proof that NVIDIA was just gouging you the entire time. Now nobody's surprised to hear that. We know that. And NVIDIA has been nicknamed Ingredia for so long for a valid reason. So that's what sort of makes me frustrated here. Now, one of the things that Phil and I were talking about is like the potential pricing for the 4070, 4070 Super, 4070 Ti, 4070 Ti Super, and then now the 4080 in there. Because look, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 4070 models. 4 of them. That is just, that's madness. So what's the price gap going to look like? Well, we already talked about the fact that we've got a $200 price gap between the 4070 and the 4070 Ti right there. So we know the 4070 Super has to fit in between that. So probably going to see a $599 MSRP. So from $499 to $599, that means the 4070 Ti has to stay around the $700 price point, which is currently around where it is, with the 4070 Ti Super being rumored that $799 to $849 price point. Now you're getting dangerously close to the new price of a 4080. So that is a really weird, crowded product stack. This is also something NVIDIA tends to do to just squish the market so full of NVIDIA SKUs that people tend to even forget about AMD. Like this is a tack that they've used ever since RTX came out. Like 1080 models didn't have this ridiculous stack, if you will. I mean, how many SKUs are on this one chart right here, right? So we got 4060, 4060 Ti, 4070, 4070 Super, 4070 Ti, 4070 Ti Super, 4080, 4080 Super, 4090, and then the theoretical 4090 Ti. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 price points starting at the $300-ish price point. So the question is, are we going to sunset any of these models? I think sunsetting a model could be the right move if the newer, faster cards slide in the current price point. If you take a faster card and you charge more for it, and then you sunset the cheaper model, you are forcing people into a more expensive model. Now, in terms of a for-profit company, that sounds like a great thing. Your shareholders would love you for that. But you know who's going to hate you is the very market at which you're relying on. I think we are seeing some of the most slowed, reduced sales we've probably ever seen since even prior to the human malware making its way around. It's rumored here that the MSRP between $599 and $649 for the 4070 Super, remember I said it had to be $599? $569 would be stupid. To have $150 premium above the 4070 to a 4070 Super when it's realistically it's going to be single-digit performance improvement. It says a theoretical 6 to 9% faster than a 4080. I would love to say that that means it would cost 6 to 9% more expensive. That's not the way NVIDIA works. We already know NVIDIA, for a 6 to 9% performance improvement, will want to charge you a minimum of 15% price increase. It is just a exponentially more expensive curve to get more performance at the higher range. Again, maybe because of the yields. So that brings us back to speculation of what the 4080 would cost in its new price. It has to be a new price. It has to drop. It doesn't have a choice. Or it has to disappear entirely. The problem I have with disappearing models is the fact that the new card could slide in more expensive. Would a 4080 Super at $1,200 be, I mean, technically that's 6 to 9% more performance. If the rumor holds true, that's 6 to 9% faster, more performance at the same price. But it's a price that's, we already know is artificial. I mean, all prices are artificial. A price is just, what is a market willing to spend for a product? And then that number is arbitrarily set. It has to be above the cost of manufacturing. That's it. And the cost of manufacturing / distribution / advertising, all the overhead to make that product sell. So whatever all that is rolled in, the card has to be above that. Otherwise, the business goes out of business. That's just how profit works. We already know at $1,200, that's way above that number if they were able to take the same die and the same manufacturing process and the same amount of RAM and everything and throw it into a China model at $999. So we know it has to be somewhere around there. What I wouldn't put past NVIDIA is to make the 4080 Super $1,200 and the 4080 $999. I would love to say that the 4080 Super would launch at $999 and the 4080 has to drop even more in price, but it almost seems more like the NVIDIA way to make the current price the faster card going, that's nearly 10% more performance for the same price. How could you scoff at that? And then make the 4080 $999, making everyone realize that card could have probably been near $200 cheaper from the get-go. That's why I'm angry. I'm angry also because I'm an enthusiast in this market, and I'm just like you guys. It's difficult to make content about something everyone's jaded about. I love my job. I love this genre. I love tech. I love throwing GPUs on systems and overclocking them and seeing the FPS number go up and just geeking out over it. But I've never seen a more disconnected, disinterested, just jaded enthusiast base as I have today. And when our entire existence depends on people being excited about this like we are, it's depressing for everyone. Probably even more so the content creator, to be honest, because of the fact that we get to see how upset everyone is. You know, and it's like, it feels bad when this just seems like, what is the next opportunity to cash grab? And I feel like the 4070 lineup is clearly it, if these rumors hold true. Last but not least, let's talk dates. January 31st is more than likely when you're going to see the 4080 Super. But what I find is odd, and I'm going to tell you that I've already told you we've gotten some emails from some anonymous sources saying, Bolo, be on the lookout with stuff lifting and information able to be talked about around January 31st. That perfectly coincides with the rumored launch dates for this. What doesn't coincide is the fact that in these emails, there was no mention of apparently the 4070 Super hitting shelves January 17th. Again, these are rumors. The 70 Ti Super available on the 24th. And then here it's 4080 Super January 31st. So I think the January 31st date is pretty much set. Unless the 4070 Super launches on January 31st and then they move from there. So I think these dates are weird, only because the only date we've been like nudge, nudge, wink, wink about is January 31st. So that is odd. Anyway, apparently you can get all the information officially from NVIDIA just before CES. Because this NVIDIA keynote is expected to be the day before CES officially starts. Rare that we actually see products from NVIDIA, like GPU-wise, launched coinciding with a big tech conference, because NVIDIA loves to be the only thing talked about. So they'll hold their own press conference at a different location at a different time, completely separate from like Computex and CES and all that. Sometimes GDC. But anyway, that's it. That's the rumor. I want to see 4080s cost $699. I want the 80 series used to always cost $699 around there. $649 even. We had 1080 Ti's at $649. I like you want all the performance, and I want it at a price that it seems reasonable. Because guess what? If a 4080 costs $649, if the price was able to exist there, then your 4060 could cost like $199. And I think honestly they could do it. We know TSMC has given price increases across the board, upwards of 25%. Now it's 25% of that component, which is the chip. But NVIDIA has been applying that price increase to the total cost of production. That's just, it's just profiteering at its best. All right, guys. I'm mad just like you guys. I don't know what else to say. I guess we'll find out in a couple weeks here.
Today, NVIDIA's GTX is officially dead. Last-minute PC hardware deals, NVIDIA's Super 2.0 release, 256 gigabytes is coming, and Ryzen 8000G desktop APUs confirmed specs accidentally leaked. Welcome everyone to Gamer Melt. First up for today, it looks like NVIDIA's GTX GPUs are officially dead. That's right. If you owned an NVIDIA gaming GPU before 2018, it was guaranteed to start with GTX. I remember my first real GPU was NVIDIA's GTX 660. It wasn't the best at the time, but it played all the games I wanted and it lasted me years. But with the introduction of the 2000 series, NVIDIA changed that G to an R, thanks to their push for ray tracing. In the years since that release, it's pretty clear that ray tracing in games is here to stay, so it would almost seem inevitable. In a new leak from the Board Channels forum and later reported by Video Cards, it looks like NVIDIA is done with their GTX 16 series of GPUs. According to the report, it states that starting in Q1 of next year, NVIDIA will cease full-scale production of their GTX 16 series of GPUs, meaning that after this, the GPUs may no longer be supplied to AIC manufacturers. Basically, the last series of GPUs that still hold on to the GTX branding are officially officially over. That also means that if this is right, Nvidia's lowest end SKU is the RTX 3050, which currently retails at $230, marking a pretty wild shift in prices over the years. Luckily, AMD does offer some cheaper GPUs, and with their 8000G series releasing soon, which I'll get to later in the video, the lower end should be covered. Next up for today, I thought I'd go over just a few last-minute PC hardware deals for those hoping to pick something up for themselves or someone else. And I'll have affiliate links to these in the description below. They don't cost you anything more, and it helps the channel out. Starting things off, we have the Ryzen 9 7950X3D, which is quite a bit off its original price still, and offers a nice bit extra off when you combo other hardware with it. And it comes with a free game. Next is Intel's i5 13600KF, which of course is their last gen product, but as you know, other than the i7, they're very close in terms of performance. So why not save with a last gen part? Next is an 18 terabyte monster hard drive that currently has an extra $70 off coupon for just $260. So definitely a great deal if you have a ton of things that need to be stored. Finally is a mouse that I use all the time. The Logitech G502 Hero is 50% off and comes with a $5 coupon. It's really a great mouse for a great price. Next up, it looks like Nvidia's upcoming Super 2.0 cards are right around the corner. In a story from IT Home, they compiled a number of leaks to get what they claim are the announcement date and release dates of Nvidia's new GPUs. Starting things off, the announcement is apparently coming on January 8th during Nvidia's special address at next year's CES. And if you want to stay up to date on all those announcements and releases, make sure you subscribe to GamerMeld. Next, we have the actual release dates, and according to this, Nvidia is planning to release these from the bottom up. Starting off, according to this report, we have the 4070 Super, which releases on the 17th of January, then the 4070 Ti Super is set for release on January 24th, and finally the 4080 Super would be released on the 31st. If you've been following the channel so far, you know that these are set to be fairly minor upgrades over their non-super counterparts, but given some of the pricing we've heard, they could be a great deal when compared to their current cards. Of course, I'd argue GPUs are way overpriced right now anyway, but I guess every little bit counts. At the end of the day, it looks like we won't have to wait long before finding out the final prices. Next, a very impressive milestone was just reached for both Z790 and X670E platforms, and that's support for up to 256 gigabytes of memory on 4-slot boards and 128 gigabytes on dual-slot. That's right, in a couple new announcements from MSI and ASRock, the companies announced the support for certain boards, and it comes thanks to the support for 64 gigabyte DIMMs by Micron. Neither company revealed which motherboards exactly will get the support. MSI showed off 256 gigabytes working on their Pro X670P Wi-Fi motherboard, and ASRock showed it with their X670E Taichi and Z790 Nova Wi-Fi. Now, ASRock seems to have taken their article down, but you'll find out why that is in my next story. Of course, while so far only MSI and ASRock have made announcements, I have little doubt other manufacturers will make their announcements as well, so be on the lookout for those to see if your motherboard will be supported. And lastly for today, we finally have it. Confirmation for AMD's desktop Ryzen 8000G APUs, including specs. The reason I'm calling this confirmed is because they were actually found on two ASUS motherboard CPU support pages, as well as in ASRock's 256GB support announcement. Oops. The pages from ASUS were found by resident leaker Momomo_US, where you can see that it lists 6 APUs with 2 being Pro models. Starting things off, we have the Ryzen 3 8300G, which has 4 cores and 8 threads, but from what we've seen, it's one big Zen 4 core and 3 little Zen 4C cores. We'll have to see if that part is true, but it does apparently come with a base clock of 3.45 GHz and a 65 watt TDP, though all of these have that. Next, we have the Ryzen 5 8500G, which comes with 6 cores and 12 threads, though other leaks have suggested these are 2 big Zen 4 cores and 4 little Zen 4C cores. Here it comes with a 3.35 GHz base clock, yet the Pro model comes with 3.55. I'm not sure if that's just a typo or what. Next is the 8600G, which is supposed to come with 6 full Zen 4 cores and 12 threads, as well as a base clock of 4.35 GHz, which really makes it look like the leaks on Big Dot Little cores are right because the little cores can't get high clocks, and that's why the 8600G is a whopping 1000 MHz higher. Finally, we have the Ryzen 7 8700G, which is an 8-core, 16-thread CPU with a base clock of 4.2 GHz. And given they're already adding these to motherboard support pages, they're almost certainly coming soon. Everything points to next year's CES. So while that does it for today, are you pumped to finally get new desktop APUs? Let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget to check out those PC hardware deals in the description below. And as always, have a great day.
No, y'all mother here with no Instagram, nobody living, nobody, and I don't want to hear from none of these Jewish talk about, oh, he's in an episode. Bro, you know what I'm saying? I'm on my Farrakhan dog right now, bro.
Kanye West is back, baby, doing some high-level satire that we mortals can never hope to understand. Or it is possible he is in the grips of another episode, hate to be the one to say it, and he is turning into anti-Semitic Kanye once again, rare form. You kind of forget that he's there, and then he just ends up giving some kind of diatribe like this at a listening party, album listening party in Las Vegas. During the event, West revealed he'd added another anti-Semitic line into his new music, quote, "I still keep some Jews with me. Management? Nah, I only let them do my jewelry. God, he's such a visionary. Anyway, so he went on a rant about Jews, quote, controlling schools and hospitals, and once again praised Adolf Hitler. A little on the nose, if you ask me. Take a look.
The pilgrims, it's the Jews, they dress the same. It's the same. That's a story. They put us in the school. The Rothschilds are there. We don't have to bow to it. Okay, it's 60 million of us in America, 60 million Jews in the world. 50% of our deaths is abortion. 25% of us go to prison. Raise one hand if you don't know one prison, one locked up, and one poor. Raise your hand if you don't know one person. And I'll tell you, if we was in a Jewish on Friday with no. Everybody raise their hands. So wait a second. But wait a second. Who make the hospitals though? Who got the hospitals? These are Zionists. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Jesus Christ, Hitler, yay. Third party. Sponsor that.
Who would sponsor that? Jesus Christ. In the corner going, no, I'm not with him. I mean, my blood is like 14% alcohol, according to the priest on Sunday when you got to drink it, but I'm not that drunk. There's an amazing image. He also wore a black KKK hood during a listening party in Miami earlier this week. He's getting around. And while wearing that KKK-style hood on stage, he rapped, quote, God, I'll never do it justice. How I'm anti-Semitic, just effed a Jewish B. Which really is a get out of jail free card when it comes to anti-Semitism. Take it from me, half a Jew. So it's just one of those decision points, guys. I gotta be honest. For me, it's a decision point. Do I do this jokingly? Obviously, I've made that decision. I would like to say in the grips of what's happening on the international stage, I just ask that everybody ask themselves one question in all of this. Kanye said a lot of stuff. Those are classic anti-Semitic tropes. Are you saying things kind of like Kanye West at this point? How many, you've heard of 30 seconds to Mars. Are you 30 seconds to Kanye? If so, go back. Realize how ridiculous you sound. And please, I just wonder, what would possess someone? There's people this might be just a cadence call and response, like instinctive thing when he says like, who runs the hospitals? Which is just a nonsense rhetorical question. And someone goes, Like the guy on the Daily who has those little thought gasms. They're like, no, it's nonsense.
Yeah.
What do you think, people?
So look, I'm torn on two fronts. One is it's so absurd, it's hard not to laugh at the absurdity, right? And on the other hand, it's so serious, the crazy stuff he's saying, the hatred that he's driving. And on the one hand, he's so vile that I want to, rhetorically rip his head off. And on the other hand, he's obviously mentally ill, right? So it's so hard to know how to treat this guy. But okay, let's talk about who controls the hospital. Why is that a bad thing? If the Jews have brought us hospitals, I'd like to thank the Jews.
Already it's such a bad alley to go down. Don't go down there. Don't go down there. That's a trope.
Is that even a trope? I thought he made that up.
No,
why would that even be a bad thing? Look at all the doctors they've brought to save our lives. It's like, what is that? And I thought the Indians ran the hospitals.
Those are tropes. Tropes are like, are you a good Jew or are you a bad Jew? Or are you a person who's saying the good thing? You one of the Jews is on our side, or the Jews are on the bad other side. The whole thing happens with like African American things where it's like, don't make me speak for everybody. Don't like see if I'm a good one or a bad one. Like it's a trope with people who have historically been underserved and marginalized. No one wants to speak for everyone. It's just rough. But yeah, it's
now that I know how to do it, let's try that one more
like
time.
He's spouting nonsense.
But is that like serious question? I have never heard that. Is that a thing that the Jews control the hospital?
I forget what show I was watching, but it's like when they're talking to a Jew, it's like a Gentile talking to a Jew. It's like, and just so you know, we always, when it comes to picking a doctor, we look for the Jewish name. That's a
so that's a thing. Okay, yeah. Jesus Christ, man. People find different ways to be anti-Semitic. In the prison line, I didn't understand the prison line. And there's a lot of African Americans in prison. There's a giant problem. We've talked about that endlessly in terms of how to fix it, criminal justice reform. What does that have to do with Jews? What are you talking about? What insanity is coming out of your mouth? And then he's like, yeah, the good guys are Jesus, Hitler, and yay. Already insanity in every part of that. But also Jesus is Jewish. Yeah. But that leads to back to the other question that I asked. Like, what do you do with this guy? On the one hand, if you don't point out how vile and disgusting it is, then it just sits there. And I know that whenever anything sits there, it festers, right? So you got to knock it down. On the other hand, it's so obvious that he's mentally ill. And so where's the line between incredibly and mentally ill? And if you say, well, look, he's a genius artist, I don't care at all. That doesn't move me 1%. And I'm so sick of people saying that. I don't give a how good he is in music or not good. I don't care. It's like saying, well, on the other hand, I thought Hitler was actually a pretty good artist. I don't care. That's not the relevant part, okay? So earlier in Kanye's career, the relevant part was his music. Now the relevant part is he has lost his mind and he's trying to drive hatred towards a specific group. And it's disgusting. And if you don't realize that Kanye's disgusting, sorry, but there's something deeply wrong with you. This is not close. It's not around the edges. He's all the way at talking about how great Hitler is. Not close, okay? So you're not, if you're agreeing with any of it or trying to excuse it in any way, shape, or form, yeah, you're 30 seconds away from him. And you're 30 seconds away from going, yay, Hitler. That's a awful, awful place to be. Kanye and his music. So I think I was clear enough. Go ahead.
Yeah, no ambiguity there. The conversation always around, we got to separate the art from the artist. This is somebody who is past that point. They've made it perfectly clear who they are, what they think, what they believe. And as someone who really liked his first several albums, it's just like, there's no point. I can't get past what he's saying and what he's doing, even from a couple of years ago. I would encourage other people to do the same. Also, the people who are around him, the people who are on the next album or worked on his next album, which could come out soon, and the people in that room. There was a really interesting moment in that video where he kind of acknowledges that many of the people in that room are people he's paying. So what are you doing with your life? Where you have to sit there and like nod along the yeah, totally. The Jews control the hospitals for a paycheck. Like there are other jobs out there, I promise you. They're probably more interesting than that, than catering to his ego. I would encourage you to just distance yourself, and especially all the rappers who are on this upcoming album, who have verses or help produce it. Don't work with them anymore, because you're gonna blow up your career.
Yeah, I was just saying one last thing about that. Look, Hitler was probably also mentally ill, so that's why it's an even tougher issue. Like, what do you do with someone who's mentally ill but causing great harm, right? But Jordan makes a great point. The people around him have no excuse. Okay, maybe he's mentally ill. What's your excuse? Oh, I was going to collect a paycheck for helping him promote the worst, most violent anti-Semitic propaganda. Well, I hope you're proud. So no, if you're in that room and you're not walking out, you're disgusting.
Yeah. I just want everybody to be on the lookout for, like, are you invoking any anti-Semitic tropes in these times? There's only one thing that he said that was accurate in his video. We're not going to go to the video, but he did talk trash about Sierra Canyon. And as a proud alumnus of Chatsworth Hills, they were our Rinaldi rivals, and they do suck, and Kanye's right about that. I don't care how many LeBron James kids go there, but they suck. That said, I do think, like, there are 100 million people in the world who are probably like, well, listen, he's saying it in a crazy way, but I do believe these things about the Jews. I do believe that they are running the monetary policy of the world. I do believe that they run the entertainment industry. I do believe that they're doing all these horrible things behind the scenes. Like, I hear it. I hear it all the time. I see it in people's faces. It sucks. And it is on all of us to ask ourselves if we are doing any of these tropes. Like, his is a magnified version. But if you've got it in there, if along the way in your discourse on Israel, you end up being like, oh God, I just kind of said something about Jews that was kind of like something Kanye West said, that is a serious reason for actually doing this story. Don't do it, because there's plenty of places to have a decent conversation, and I respect and thank everybody for doing that on behalf of all Jews, because if I'm the token one, you know, I'm not that Jewish, but I'll take it. I made the ultimate sacrifice.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.
Not too long ago, I created a video where I tested these 6 different types of garage door insulation. And as I did each of those, I tested the ability to retain or reduce essentially heat from the outside, and obviously with some applicability in the cold transmission as well as what the cost was, the ease of installation, and what their R values for each one was. And in that test, I realized that doing the Owens Corning 1-inch formula NGX was actually the most efficient and easiest method for installation. It's pretty cost efficient. And so in this video, I'll be showing you a DIY method to not use the fiberglass insulation, which I think is very much inferior to what we get with 1.5-inch NGX that we're going to install here. Now, just like with everything, make sure to test on your specific garage doors to see what your depth or thickness of panel should be. In my case, it's 1.5 inches, but I'm going to use that 1.5 inches and show you how easy it is to install this. And within just a matter of minutes, get your garage door to where it's going to do a great job at retaining your indoor temperature. But first, we got to get all this stuff off. Not quite sure how I'm going to get this stuff off. I think I'm going to have to scrape it, I guess. We'll see how this goes.
$2,000 years later.
All right, that took way longer than I expected to get that spray foam panel cleared off. My goodness, what a nightmare. So don't do that. That is a real difficult one to remove. The process of cutting these down to size is super easy. You're going to need a blade of some sort, so I'm going to use my Milwaukee Fastback, which I love. And this one doesn't go very deep. It's not going to go the full 1.5 inches, so I may need to use a longer blade as well. And then I'm going to use a T-square that I have from Drywall. If you don't have that, then any square or straight edge will do. Well, a straight edge, I should say. A square is nice to have, but a straight edge is even better. And we're going to use a marker to make our cuts. And one thing to keep in mind, on these different panels here, they actually come pre-scored, essentially. So if you look at the edge of these here, there's actually a little, you can see there's little scoring that happens. All you really have to do is cut through the middle if you want to cut these into 3 16-inch sections, which is pretty nice. So I've got 16, 16, and 16. There's also a score right in the middle if you want to break this down and actually just cut it in half, but that doesn't really apply to our scenario here. And with that said, let's jump in. I'm going to use one of my other pieces as a surface piece here that I can sit on or kneel on. So this is actually a blade that I purchased for cutting rock wool insulation, which I've done all around the garage here. And this is actually working out really well. So I'm just going to use this instead. You can actually pick these up really inexpensively. I'll put a link to this one that I picked up on Amazon if you want to get one of these for yourself. Definitely is making the job easier. And then 16 inches is unfortunately not the perfect height for these, because if I look at my total size here, it's really about 17, almost 17 and a half, probably 17 and a quarter. So that's what I would ideally have these at, but I'm going to use some spray foam to fill in the gaps on these to make sure that it seals all the way around and I don't have any air pockets left where the cold can just come through or the heat can just come through. Lesson learned here, as I'm going along, if I score it with a really sharp blade, like this guy first, and then use the longer blade to cut all the way through, it leaves a nice clean cut, as opposed to some of the tearing that I'm getting if I just try to use the duller blade the whole time. It's not rocket science, it's not that surprising, but I thought maybe this would do just as good a job as far as just getting through it. But just at least start with the clean blade, even if a dull one is needed to get all the way through the rest of it. It's pretty quick. Okay, with that, we've got 6 panels cut out. That just took me a few minutes. That's what I love about this application, is it's so fast. Now let's take a look at our fit and how these are going to go. So my goal here is to not have to glue these in place. I want to be able to use just a form fit and have them in there snug. But because of how some of these are cut, may or may not be feasible. We'll see how it goes. Okay, look at that. That is a good fit right there. Really good. It looks like it was meant for these panels to fit in, so that looks great. Now, one thing I'm noticing though is I'm going to have these gaps underneath and above, so that's where I'm going to use some spray foam to fill those in. I've got it pretty solidly filled all the way into here. You can see it right through here through the holes, and then all the way up to this side. So really that's all I've got is just the gaps right there and the gaps above. So that's where the spray foam will come in, and then I'll put these in, and then we should be good. It's just a matter of working through the process now. All right, that's looking pretty great. Onward and upward from here. So just a quick note that's going to save you a lot of time. I've seen a lot of people talk about taking out the bolts and screws out of here to basically not let those screws get caught on the face of the rigid foam board. I found that you typically don't need to do that. Usually what the hang up is not those bolts, but it's a lip that's behind it. Basically all of these channels here that you see right back here are just a C. So it's like the letter C and pushed up against the door like this. And what's happening is the edge of your rigid foam board gets stuck on the lip of that C. So it can't quite squeeze in there. So all you need to do is actually just remove that lip from the foam board. And to do that, I'm just going to my sharp blade here again. There we go, that's it. So now I've just cut this little lip 90 degrees, it's not so abrupt. And it's got a little place where it can kind of slide in. And then these things will slide in so much easier when you do that. Okay, time for a bit of a confession. I made a mistake on this, and I thought I would just continue on with it and make it right, but it's just not turning out good. So I'm going to redo this. If you look behind me here, you can see that I've got these different insert panels that I put up because I didn't take the time. I just assumed everything was the same height, but it's not. These are definitely taller and I should have cut these at the proper height, so I instead tried to shim them essentially, and it's just not going to work. There's going to be a gap there, it's going to be inefficient, it doesn't look good, and so I just went and purchased a couple more panels to take care of that. So learn from my mistake, cut each one to the exact measurement of each panel, rather than just assuming that they're all the same. That was just a bad move on my part. I often wear this shirt that says I only measure once, and it's a joke, but kind of stuck my foot in my mouth on that one. So let me fix it now. We'll make these things look good both on the top and on the bottom. Those are taller panels. So I'll finish those, and then we should be ready to go. And with that, the garage door is done. Now, I think you'll agree it looks really sharp because everything is nice and flush. We have our non-printed side facing out. And not only that, we have our R value of 7.5, which means that this is going to do a great job at keeping this place cooler in the summers and warmer in the winters, especially if you have any sort of heating or cooling inside the garage. Now, this looks really good, but that's not the end of it. You want to make sure to use some garage door seal all the way around the perimeter. And then if you need to, consider upgrading or replacing the seal along the bottom as well. These are all areas where heat and cool can escape, and you want to make sure to protect those as well. And then some foam seal around the outside will help to seal the outside perimeter as well. So those are things definitely to keep in mind, and as always, I'll put links to those in the description below if you want to check out some good deals on some seals that you can get for your garage door to finish the job properly. Now, the last thing I want to leave you with, and this is super important, is that we've just added weight to our garage door. Now, with that, you want to make sure that you're accommodating that by balancing the garage door. What that means is that we need to either add a little bit of tension to the garage door springs if it's just minimal weight that we've added, but if it's over maybe 5-10 pounds, you're probably going to want to replace or upgrade those garage door springs, those torsion springs up above. Now, you can have a garage door technician take care of this, but in next week's video, I'm going to walk you through how to safely do this yourself and take all the necessary precautions to do a good job with this and hopefully save hundreds of dollars in the process. Now, this works also if you have a broken garage door spring. Either way, you're going to want to make sure you get this balanced, because if not, you're going to shorten the life of your drive system and have to deal with that again, especially if you're doing more than like 5 or 10 pounds of weight on your garage door. So be sure to check that video out. I'll put that one right here as soon as it's ready. I'm Nils with Learn to DIY. Thanks for watching.
Super Sap collab?
Hey, what's up? MKBHD here. This is Jerry.
Hey, it's Majesty.
This is Gordo. This is Safe.
here.
It's David. This is Michael Fisher.
This is Linus.
Mr. Cute. I'm Thomas Tech Shop.
I'm Michael Josh.
This is Austin Evans. This is John Rettinger. This is Jaime Rivera.
Jenny there.
It's on Super Sap TV.
On Super Sap TV.
On Super Sap TV.
On Super Sap TV.
What's up, guys? Sap here on Super Sap TV, and welcome to YouTube Tech Rewind 2023 Super Sap style. This is the 9th year running we've been doing this. You guys know the drill. I've invited a bunch of my friends to share with us what their favorite tech of 2023 is. Now, as always, there are 2 parts to this video. The first part has already gone live, where we're looking at our favorite smartphones, the ones we choose to use and are taking with us to 2024. That video is going to be linked in the description. You can watch it after this one. Right, to kick things off, what is my favorite tech of 2023? Well, it's actually not a product this year. It's a software tool, generative AI in Adobe Photoshop. Now, you guys know I'm an avid Photoshop user and have been using it for almost 20 years now. And over those years, I've spent countless hours using things like the clone stamp tool to manually remove people and objects from images, or even extending images beyond the canvas. Generative AI in Photoshop really changes the game and makes all of this so much easier, and it's become part of my daily workflow. Now, it's not perfect and can give you some really random results sometimes. And yes, the Google Pixel can do similar things, not quite as good, but for a professional workflow, this is a priceless tool, and that's why it's my pick. Let's see what the others have chosen.
What's up, guys? This is Jerry on Super Sap TV, and my favorite piece of tech that's not a smartphone is actually something I'm wearing right now. This is a heated jacket because I've been outside for the past like 3 weeks in a very, very cold weather. There's snow on the mountains here in Utah. And this heated jacket has wires that coil through the jacket, keeping me warm and extremely happy during my bunker project. This jacket actually is like 4 years old. I used it during the Hummer project and everything, and it's still functioning great. Heated jacket, my favorite piece of technology currently. That's not a cell phone.
Hey, it's iJustine here on SuperSaf TV. My favorite non-smartphone piece of tech this year is 8 Sleep. So earlier this year, I got the Pod 3 cover, and this is a temperature-controlled cover that you can put on top of your mattress, and you fill this little base station with water, and that's what allows it to quickly heat or cool your bed. And it's awesome because there are 2 sides, so you can control one side, your partner can control the other, and I've loved having it set to autopilot. So throughout the night, depending upon my temperature, it'll adjust accordingly. It also does some deep tracking of sleep stats, so every morning you can wake up and see how well you slept.
Hey, what's up guys? It's David on SuperSaf TV, and my favorite piece of tech this year that isn't a phone is this Leica Q3. Now I shoot on Sony cameras for everything, but I wanted a camera to just use to take photos and like bring on trips, and this Q3 is still full frame, but it's rounded and has a fixed lens, so it's a lot smaller than most full frame cameras, but if I'm honest, there are probably other cameras out there that are less expensive that would work just as well. But I like this camera because of the way that it feels to use it. It's just well built, and there's something about it that makes me want to go out and take photos, which isn't as easily quantifiable as like it's better in low light or something like that, but it's still important.
What's up guys, this is Gaurav aka Technique Guruji on SuperSaf TV, and my favorite piece of tech for 2023, which is not a smartphone, is this one, the all-new DJI Osmo Pocket 3. I mean, what an amazing device this is. A very unique form factor, very small and compact, at the same time really capable. We have a full 1-inch sensor, we have a complete full touchscreen, able to record, in fact, even in vertical. Really good stabilization, really good video quality, and considering the form factor, this camera really takes it ahead. So this becomes my pick for this year. This is the one that I'm using myself, and I mean, really capable, small cute little device to capture everything that you need.
Koresigara here for SuperSaf TV. And yes, here's my favorite tech of the year. It's a category, but one of the best devices. Is the Steam Deck OLED. This is a OLED display. I love it. You know, very OLED-y, fantastic and super visuals. But I also like the ROG Ally. This is also very light and portable. Both of them are light, portable gaming devices. So, you know, when I'm on my charter jet, my plane, I can game as much as I want. That's right. It's a gamma-nice game. It's sexy and tight. Thank you very much. Anyway, it's not for cheap people. If you don't have money, you can't buy it. That's why I love it. It's not expensive and it's not cheap at the same time. Sigara, sign out.
What's up, guys? This is Michael Fisher on SuperSaf TV. My favorite piece of tech that's not a phone for 2023 is utterly unnecessary to my work life, even my personal one. It's the TP7 from Teenage Engineering. It's a field recorder. It lets you record audio and has a lovely, delightful spinning little turntable. So if you are more skilled than I at audio engineering, we could do things that matter to people. It has all these inputs. You can plug in your guitars and other things that I am not skilled enough to play. But really, you can just admire it because it's so freaking awesome. It's also $1,500, so there's that.
What's up, guys? It's Jaime Rivera from Pocket Now here on SuperSaf TV. Favorite tech product of the year is actually a combo of cameras, the Sony ZV-E1 and Sony a7C II. I travel a lot and felt my a7S III was just too heavy to haul, and the a7 IV was a good hybrid solution, but on the same footprint almost. It's crazy that the ZV-E1 is a better and lighter a7S III in most ways, though, yeah, I missed the EDF and better photos. The a7C II came to solve that as a compact a7 IV with a few extras. Sure, neither is perfect, but what can I say? I like to travel light. Saf, again, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, when it comes to my favorite piece of tech that I've tried for 2023, the concept of it was weird and different, and I liked it. The Jamais. Literally, it's a device that turns all food waste into actual fertilizers, into actual soil that you can use with your plants. The concept by itself just minimizes everything to do with waste, as well as it emphasizes about the important role of technology in making our life better, making everything better when it comes to not only the tech that we use on a daily basis, but literally our lives. So I like that. And yeah, what's up? This is Valentina from SuperSaf TV. Forgot to say that, right? All right.
What's up, guys? This is John Rettinger back on SuperSaf TV as another year comes to a close. Saf asked me what my favorite piece of technology was, and I was thinking phones, tablets, even coffee makers were up there in contention. But I'm picking, guarantee you, nobody else in this video has picked. Ladies and gentlemen, meet my Toto NeoRest toilet. Before everybody gets grossed out, this thing is a life changer, a game changer, and the best technology I have in my house that, maybe TMI, gets used every single day. It knows that I'm walking up to it. It flushes itself. It does everything. I just gotta do my business, walk away. Got a special spot in my heart. I guarantee you nobody else picked a toilet.
Me again, just reminding you, if you're enjoying this collaboration so far and you want to see more like it in 2024, then do consider subscribing to the channel. What's up, guys? This is Austin Evans on SuperSap TV. There were a lot of great gadgets this year, the Steam Deck OLED being a strong contender, but my favorite is actually a little bit of a weird one. It is the DJI mic. Now, this has been a huge game changer for the way that I use gadgets and record video all the time. So first and foremost, it sounds great. So you're listening to what it sounds like right now. But on top of that, it works with pretty much anything. You can connect it to a smartphone, you can connect it to your camera, or what I often do is record locally for the best audio quality. The whole thing goes in a nice little charging case. You got the receiver, it's got the different USB and lightning ends. Like, there's so much this thing does. And for my personal use, it lives on my bag all the time, and I use it pretty much every single day. Not for everyone, but if you make video, these things are absolutely clutch.
Hey guys, I'm Tom the Tech Chap on SuperSap TV. Okay, tech of the year. What do I think? I'm going to go with these handheld gaming PCs. So obviously we've got the Steam Deck OLED, we've got the Lenovo Legion Go, and the ROG Ally. The original Steam Deck did obviously come out a couple of years ago, but we've had this big update. And while these are more powerful with better screens, everyone loves the Windows 11 software, it's a little bit clunky, but I think they're great experiences being able to play proper AAA games at reasonably high frame rates on the plane, wherever you go, is just a lot of fun. And while we see sort of incremental improvements with MacBooks and Windows laptops and cameras, this is like a whole new form factor that kind of just makes me want to play games again. So for me, handheld gaming PCs like these guys are my tech of the year.
Hey there guys, it's Mr. Q from Rakami TV here on SuperSap TV. So I'm very fortunate to have loads of different cameras, from Lumix to Blackmagic to Canon to Sony, and finally Sony were the ones who gave me what I've been looking for. Yes, something all in one. I'm talking about the ZV-E1. I'm the type of person that wants to carry as little as possible, especially when I'm traveling and I'm filming at special events. It's a full-frame camera. I can record 4K, 120p. I've got amazing dynamic range. It also has great stabilization, in my opinion. So if you're a content creator and you want some device that's going to do as much as possible automatically for you, then I think that the ZV-E1 is the camera for you. All right, thanks, and who's next?
Hey guys, this is Jenny there on SuperSap TV, and my favorite piece of tech for 2023 have to be the Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses. These are the headliner with transition lenses, so when I'm outside they will transition to sunglasses, but they have a 12 megapixel camera. I can take pictures, videos, I can make phone calls, I can listen to music. They have the AI built in, so I'm able to say, hey Meta, take a video, and it will do it. These have been game changer for doing behind the scenes content and filming and listening to music, and basically everything that I need on a daily basis. These have been able to do it.
Hi, I'm Michael Josh, your gadget matchmaker on SuperSap TV. One tech product that I can't live without is the Chipolo card spot with Apple's Find My built in. Unlike AirTags, they're almost as thin as a credit card. You know I love luxury and tech. So I have one in my Louis Vuitton pocket organizer, i.e. slim wallet, and in my Hermes Steam Messenger bag. That way I don't stretch out my leather, and more importantly, keep tabs of all my valuables all the time. In fact, I just ordered more.
Hey guys, Ash here from C4E Tech here on SuperSaf TV, and my favorite non-smartphone piece of tech this year has got to be the AYN Odin 2. Android-based handhelds have usually had very underpowered chips, or they've been priced way too high for what they've offered. The Odin 2 for the first time changes all that. A Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for under $300, just insane. It can literally run any game maxed out, regardless of if it's Android or if it's something it's emulating. And the 6-inch screen size, the form factor, combined with a big 8,000 mAh battery, it makes for very comfortable long gaming sessions.
Hey, what's up? I'm KBHD here on SuperSap TV. Favorite piece of tech of the year for me, I think it's a bit of a sleeper. It's something that's existed for longer than just this year, but I really liked it this year. And that is this thing right here, my keyboard, the Keychron Q3 mechanical keyboard. They've been around for a while. You also probably noticed.
on everything from VR headsets to portable gaming systems to TVs. So Wi-Fi is the glue that's going to hold together all that other innovation.
And there we have it, YouTube Tech Rewind 2023 Super SAF style. All of the products mentioned are linked in the description. What is your favorite piece of tech of 2023? Drop that in the comments below. Remember.
I literally have a magic keyboard above.
For 20 bucks on Amazon if you want a little device to have fun with. Something that I think someone could get their parents as a bit of a throwback laugh, or if they wanted it on their desk as a cool item, is this Pac-Man arcade game, little tiny game, and it's 42. I don't think anybody can have enough lamps in their life, and this is the
Are you guys even helping me?
lamp, which offers a very cool looking light aesthetic, and it could be very interesting for making content with, and it's 18 bucks on Amazon. Now, for those of you that are a gamer or they have gamer friends, this 8BitDo Ultimate wired controller is an awesome controller for $20, and it works on Windows, Android, or Raspberry Pi, and I think it would be a perfect companion to those PC gamers. Another perfect companion to those PC gamers is a good microphone, and here's the Blue Snowball Ice, which I personally have. It's a great sounding microphone and much better than a headset, and this is 40 bucks. Now, if you've got a minimal aesthetic going on in your place, especially with light toned wood, and you want to maintain that, this is a cool looking LED alarm clock that's 22 bucks on Amazon. Now, for those of you that want to digitally take notes but don't want to waste paper, this is the Rocketbook reusable notebook. And I think for anybody that's really into journaling or taking notes physically, which is ultimately better, is going to really dig this for 37 bucks. Most people worry about security cameras on the outdoors, but don't really worry about the indoors, and this UV camera is going to be a great addition to a security system, or if you don't even have one, like you're in an apartment or a dorm room, this would be a great addition for $43. Now, I was quite surprised to see how cheap these have gotten over time, but this is the Wyze Smart Scale. It's a digital scale that pairs directly to an app on your phone so you can track weight, and it's 27 bucks on Amazon. It seems like in 2023, what is old is new again, and film has come back in a really big way. This is a Kodak film camera.
Hammer on the ball.
Great thing to get for someone that wants to get into that kind of thing, and it's $24 on Amazon. These two items are essentially memberships, so I'm going to combine them into one. First thing is Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which covers cloud gaming, Xbox gaming, and PC gaming. That's 14 bucks for 1 month or 44 for 3 months. And then Nintendo Switch Online for $20, which is for a year. Now, regardless if you're on Mac, PC, Linux...
God, you guys suck!
This is the Razer Death Adder Essential, and it's $24.
Oh my God.
And to be honest, it's a really well-built mouse for that price. Next up is the Anything speaker, and you basically put this device on top of something and it becomes a speaker, which is similar technology to bone-conducting headphones. This is a very interesting product. I think it's more of a funny thing than anything else, but if someone wanted to stick this onto a coffee mug and make a Bluetooth speaker out of it, they could. Next up is a smart plug, and this one is from TP-Link. You could connect your Christmas tree to this and use Siri to control it, and it's only $10. If you've ever been in the instance where you wanted to use your Bluetooth headphones like AirPods on an infotainment system on a plane, let's say, that doesn't have Bluetooth, you can with this dongle. This is the 12 South Airfly SE, and on one side it has a 3.5mm jack, and it has a little bit of a dongle part that comes off the end, but it basically adds Bluetooth to a non-Bluetooth device for 35 bucks. Now, this product I thought was actually pretty cool. It's the Anker 511 2-in-1 portable charger, which is not only a battery bank, but it's also a USB.
Throw a grenade down there before you fucking walk down. Jesus Christ.
So you don't have to carry two separate devices, a power bank and a power adapter. Now, whether you've got a new Mac Mini or a PC for Christmas, or you're just trying to redo your setup and keep the cost low, this Logitech keyboard and mouse bundle that's under $50 is going to do the trick. Next up, something that might be a little dangerous. This is the Cozy Kitten Paw Warmer, and it is a hand warmer and a battery bank in one. And I don't know if a hand warmer and battery bank built into the same device is a good idea, but for 40 bucks, this can get two different things done. Speaking of warming things up, this is a coffee mug warmer, and I've definitely had my fair share of times where I pull my espresso shot and leave it and come back later.
Anyone helping at all? Is anyone even out there? Holy fuck!
I think anybody can use a Bluetooth speaker, whether they're working in the garage or outside, or they want one at their desk. This is the Anker Soundcore 2, and for 28 bucks, it's a really good deal. Another charging-related device is this car charger from Anker, but you might ask, why would you need a car charger if most newer cars have USB ports? And this thing is way faster.
Can anyone help me at all? What are you guys doing? Oh my God!
PC, one USB-A,
and this is so much faster than the 5-watt cords that are in my car. Next up, for those of you that have a PC but don't have Wi-Fi 6, you can either get a TP-Link USB adapter or a PCI add-in card to give you that much better Wi-Fi. The USB adapter here is $50 and the add-in PCI card is $37. I actually did the same thing where I replaced the onboard Wi-Fi with the one on my motherboard with a PCIe add-in card that's Wi-Fi 6, and it's so much faster. Now,
Wow, you guys are great.
At screens for hours on end, whether it be a laptop, desktop.
Oh my God, I've never seen worse.
It's a good idea to wear blue blockers, and these from LibHo is a 2-pack for 17 bucks. Now, one thing I've noticed working in video production is the fact that SD cards tend to run away, and no matter how hard I try to convince them, they still go missing. And this 128 gig SanDisk Extreme is only 14 bucks. Now, if you wanted to get into the Philips Hue ecosystem but didn't want to have to worry about the bridge, they now have lights that have Bluetooth directly built in. These are the larger BR30, but this is a 2-pack of the dimmable white LED bulbs, and this is 35 bucks. Now, as I said earlier, you can never get enough lamps. The other one I mentioned is a little bit more about aesthetic. This is more about function. This is an LED floor lamp for 50 bucks. Now, we are getting into that colder time of year, but this is a really cool looking space heater for $25. Now, for those Halo fans out there, here is a Master Chief phone/controller holder for 36 bucks. Now, I mentioned this in my previous video about what was in my tech bag, and I carry a flash drive with me mostly, if not all the time. I still find flash drives to be very useful. This one is super cool though. It is a Samsung 256 gig USB-C flash drive, and I personally use this for capturing gameplay on the PS5. Now, this could be great for someone that wants to get into making music, and it's a MIDI keyboard, and it's only $39. Now, this could be very cool for the PlayStation fan that you know. It is the PlayStation Symbols light, and I didn't even know this. This thing reacts to sound. Obviously, it lights up and it's powered by batteries, but I did not realize that it's reactive to sound, and it's 25 bucks. Now, something that I think could add to someone's nighttime vibe to their setup is a nightlight. This is the Latake Cute Cat, and it's 17 bucks on Amazon. Next up is an item that I use all the time. This is the Nanda USB-A to USB-C adapter, and you get 2 of them for $8. This is perfect for the USB-C device like an iPhone, an iPad, or a Mac, and then when I that to a USB-C port. Something that I realized the other day that I actually played with is the Automaton, and this thing is hilarious. They call it the Japanese Electronic Musical Instrument Portable Music Synthesizer from Japan. And this thing is awesome. It's basically a music synthesizer, and it really changes the sound.
Wow, we got the fucking Ghost.
The bottom, and for 40 bucks, it could be some good fun. Next up is the Xbox Core Controller. This one is.
There's no way we lose this now. Just keep them pinned at their end.
This is essential for anybody that's gaming on Windows, on Xbox, or if they're gaming on Mac or iOS, now that those controllers are supported. Next up is a gaming headset, and this one is the HyperX Cloud Stinger 2. And if you have someone that you know that hasn't bought a new headset in several years, they might be due for a new one. Now, something that Stevie found that I thought was utterly hilarious is a protective MagSafe wallet made by Pelican. Personally, I rock the MagSafe wallet on the back of my phone, and I find it to be very convenient. This one takes it to the next level. This one is made like a Pelican case and looks to be a lot more sturdy and enclosed, and it's 40 bucks. Next, we have a laptop stand from Wixgear, and this has a very minimal aesthetic to be able to
on our flag.
Very simple setup. Whether you have a Mac
oh, is this
or a Mac
Flare? What the fuck?
PC, this is a very cool looking stand for $18.
No wonder.
Now, another essential item that I use all the time is this Anker 10-foot long USB-C to USB-C cable. This cable supports up to 100 watts, and it's only $12, but I use this all the time to charge my PlayStation controllers across the room to my couch. Another Apple product that I think is underrated but has made a comeback in the last couple years is a set of wired earpods. Now, these earpods come in 3 flavors, a USB-C, a Lightning, and a standard 3.5, and I still think it's very essential to carry a backup pair of headphones, whether your Bluetooth ones died or you don't even want to rely on a set of Bluetooth headphones. These are really great for 19 bucks. Next up is this wired set of over-ear Sony headphones. These are only $17, and they make a great addition to a primary set of headphones as a backup. Last up on this list is the Raspberry Pi 4, and if anybody wants to get into development, coding, or building their own computer, this is really cool. Now, keep in mind, this is only the board and it doesn't have a power supply. or an SD card to boot your OS off of, or a case. But if you were looking to add in a power supply, those are only $8, and if you wanted to add a cheap case, those are only $5. So that's been my 2023 50 under 50, about 9 days before Christmas. Hopefully you found some of these gifts to be interesting, or you might get one for yourself. Thank you so much for watching. This is Travis, and have a great night. This video is brought to you by Nebula. Watch episode 2 right now by signing up with the link in the description.
What the fuck, bro? Holy shit!
Late on a spring evening, 1992, the Endeavour space shuttle, on its maiden flight, stood on its launch pad in Cape Canaveral, Florida. The crew sitting aboard, ready to take on a daring mission. A rendezvous between two spacecraft in orbit, a rescue mission. Bruce Melnick was aboard that day.
The challenge we had was that this satellite was never supposed to be touched by human hand once it got in orbit. It was supposed to be way up in geosynchronous orbit, over 22,000 miles up. But it launched on an unmanned rocket and failed to fire second stage and send it on its way. So it was stuck in a useless 800-mile high orbit.
Melnick and his crewmates were about to take the ride of their life to rescue the satellite, to grab it with their bare hands and attach a new second stage. But before that could happen, a complicated series of events was about to take place beneath them. 3 liquid fuel rocket engines were about to burst into life with furious power that would tilt the entire structure off axis, held back by just 8 explosive bolts, fed with turbopumps driving fuel out of the external fuel tank slung underneath the orbiter. Meanwhile, the 2 massive solid rocket boosters lay dormant, the 2 largest solid rockets ever made to date. And when the signal that the orbiter's engines were up to the challenge arrived, an inferno would be lit inside them, causing the entire column of solid rocket fuel inside to erupt, lifting the revolutionary, reusable space plane off the ground.
Killing 3, let's go.
This is the insane engineering of the space shuttle. We are mere minutes away from launch. Helium and nitrogen have purged the main engines. The flight surfaces and main engine gimbals have been tested. The shuttle is now fully fueled and under its own power, no longer connected to the launch pad. 10 seconds are left. Sparkler-like igniters fire underneath the engine to burn any stray hydrogen as the shuttle prepares to open the main fuel valve. Liquid hydrogen begins to race through the fuel lines, pushed by the pressure of the tanks, through the engine nozzles, where it begins to expand and turn into gas. This gaseous hydrogen drives a low-pressure turbopump turbine, elevating the rate of flow of hydrogen through the fuel lines. This is all happening in the blink of an eye. Less than a second later, the main oxidizer valves open, unlocking the fuel's true power. Fuel and oxygen meet in the 2 high-pressure turbopumps, raising flow rates even higher. Back in the nozzle, we see our first flames. Oxygen levels are still low, and combustion instabilities cause the engines to rattle. But the engine is now ready to enter its next stage, entering openly with engine control.
What in the fuck?
By a pre-scripted startup sequence. Instead, the engine constantly monitors pressure readings and adjusts valves accordingly. The engine begins to throttle up, oxygen valves continually opening wider. The flame transitions from a low-pressure orange flame to an eerie hot blue. The space shuttle is unique in that these engines are not directly under the fuel tanks. The expensive rocket engines were attached to the reusable shuttle, not the expendable external tank.
And because the main engines are offset from the solid rocket boosters, which are holding you to the pad, when we light off the main engine at 7 seconds, it actually bends that stack over, and you can feel this little lurching back and forth. NASA calls it twang, kind of a respectful term.
The only thing stopping the entire shuttle from tipping over at this point are the hold-down posts, attached to the solid rocket boosters, which for now lay dormant, waiting for the signal to ignite. The pressure inside the diverging nozzle is still lower than atmospheric pressure, and as a result, we can see a flow separation layer, which gradually creeps to the edge of the nozzle as the pressure inside increases. 3 seconds until launch. The engines are checked to ensure they are running at 90% of their rated thrust. The time has come for the solid rocket boosters to ignite. The solid rocket boosters are 45 meters long and are filled to the brim with solid rocket fuel, a rubbery mixture that combines both the fuel and oxidizer into one solid material. The oxidizer, ammonium perchlorate, makes up nearly 70% of the mixture, while 16% was the aluminium fuel. We need a way to ignite the entire column quickly. The igniter itself was essentially a miniature solid rocket motor, which itself was ignited by an even smaller miniature solid rocket motor. To ensure extremely quick combustion, this main igniter was shaped with a 40-point star orifice. When it comes to solid rocket motors, the more surface area available to burn, the quicker it will burn, rapidly producing the heat and pressure needed to ignite the entire column of solid propellant. Once this happened, there was no turning back, so there were several safety mechanisms in the arming sequence to prevent it happening accidentally. The first part of the arming sequence began when technicians accessed the safety and arming device in the top skirt of the solid rocket booster here to remove a pin. This pin locked a safety device in place, preventing it from rotating into an armed position by accident. When it was rotated into position on command at T-5 minutes, it connected a standard NASA detonator through a tunnel to the igniter system. When it fires, it begins the rapid chain of events that brings the space shuttle to its highest thrust. But the entire rocket is still anchored to the launch pad, held down by the hold-down posts, 4 on each solid rocket booster. These hold-down posts anchor the solid rockets to the ground through the aft skirt with massive 711mm long and 88mm wide bolts. The lower side of the bolt is tensioned using a regular nut, while the upper nut is a special kind of explosive nut, a frangible nut. On 2 occasions, 2 of these frangible nuts did not fracture correctly, something NASA described as stud hang-ups. These issues did not stop the space shuttle from taking off. With the power of 2 solid rocket boosters and 3 main engines, 1 or 2 improperly fractured nuts were not going to stop the space shuttle from taking off. These hold-down posts were primarily designed to prevent the space shuttle from tipping over while the 3 main engines were brought up to full throttle, or simply by a gust of wind. However, if 4 or more of these stud hang-ups occurred, the issue could have been mission critical. And so, a redesign was introduced for STS-126, where a crossover assembly was included. This new system linked the 2 pyrotechnic charges in each nut to ensure they detonated within 50 microseconds of each other. A delay of up to 250 microseconds was possible with the previous design, and this was identified as the main issue causing the so-called stud hang-ups. The shuttle is now free, with the largest and most powerful solid rockets ever used in human spaceflight powering it upwards. Each of the solid rocket boosters provided 13,000 kilonewtons of thrust each, nearly double that of the Falcon 9 first stage. But the very notion of using solid rocket boosters for a crewed space shuttle was initially met with extreme concern. Using solid rocket boosters for human spaceflight had never been attempted before. They were nearly exclusively used for military use. Like the Minuteman ICBM, the solid rocket fuel allowed them to stand ready, available to launch in a moment's notice. However, once ignited, there is little that can be done to stop them. The entire column of propellant is ignited at once. There are no pumps or valves that can lower the fuel and oxidizer be delivered. Once ignited, they stay ignited until all of the propellant is expended. And this, of course, comes with extreme control issues that need to be engineered around. To begin, the engine needs to be throttled back as it expends fuel. As fuel is used, the weight of the rocket lowers. If the thrust isn't lowered, the rocket could exceed its max allowable dynamic pressure and disintegrate. An improperly designed fuel column could make matters even worse, as a simple circular internal cavity will result in an increase in thrust as the fuel is burned. However, many different thrust profiles can be achieved with different shapes. A pointed star cavity will start with higher thrust thanks to the increased surface area, but rapidly decreases in thrust as the points of the star burn down and the surface area decreases. This effect can be increased by increasing the number of points on the star, which is why the igniter had 40. Nearly every illustration online shows the Space Shuttle solid rocket boosters with a continuous cylinder. If this was the design of the fuel channel, it could have caused issues. The surface area of a circular internal cavity would have increased as fuel was burned, because the cavity's diameter and circumference would be increasing. This was not how the solid rocket boosters were designed. The upper section of the solid rocket booster had an 11-pointed star shape. This shape was created with this mandrel placed inside the upper section before the fuel mixture was poured in. This shape then transitioned into a circular section. However, it wasn't constant in diameter. The diameter increased towards the nozzle. This design provided elevated thrust at ignition when it was needed most, and then reduced gradually to lower the maximum dynamic pressure the Space Shuttle experienced, with the thrust decreasing by 33%. It would be increasing. This was not how the solid rocket boosters were designed. The upper section of the solid rocket booster had an 11-pointed star shape. This shape was created with
Like, you know, World of Warships, fuck off.
Requesting assistance.
And as a result, we can see a flow separation layer, which gradually creeps to the edge of the nozzle as the pressure inside increases. 3 seconds until launch. The engines are checked to ensure they are running at 90% of their rated thrust. The time has come for the solid rocket boosters to ignite. The solid rocket boosters are 45 meters long and are filled to the brim with solid rocket fuel, a rubbery mixture that combines both the fuel and oxidizer into one solid material. The oxidizer, ammonium perchlorate, makes up nearly 70% of the mixture, while 16% was the aluminium fuel. We need a way to ignite the entire column quickly. The igniter itself was essentially a miniature solid rocket motor, which itself was ignited by an even smaller miniature solid rocket motor. To ensure extremely quick combustion, this main igniter was shaped with a 40-point star orifice. When it comes to solid rocket motors, the more surface area available to burn, the quicker it will burn, rapidly producing the heat and pressure needed to ignite the entire column of solid propellant. Once this happened, there was no turning back, so there were several safety mechanisms in the arming sequence to prevent it happening accidentally. The first part of the arming sequence began when technicians accessed the safety and arming device in the top skirt of the solid rocket booster here to remove a pin. This pin locked a safety device in place, preventing it from rotating into an armed position by accident. When it was rotated into position on command at T-5 minutes, it connected a standard NASA detonator through a tunnel to the igniter system. When it fires, it begins the rapid chain of events that brings the space shuttle to its highest thrust. But the entire rocket is still anchored to the launch pad, held down by the hold-down posts, 4 on each solid rocket booster. These hold-down posts anchor the solid rockets to the ground through the aft skirt with massive 711mm long and 88mm wide bolts. The lower side of the bolt is tensioned using a regular nut, while the upper nut is a special kind of explosive nut, a frangible nut. On 2 occasions, 2 of these frangible nuts did not fracture correctly, something NASA described as stud hang-ups. These issues did not stop the space shuttle from taking off. With the power of 2 solid rocket boosters and 3 main engines, 1 or 2 improperly fractured nuts were not going to stop the space shuttle from taking off. These hold-down posts were primarily designed to prevent the space shuttle from tipping over while the 3 main engines were brought up to full throttle, or simply by a gust of wind. However, if 4 or more of these stud hang-ups occurred, the issue could have been mission critical. And so, a redesign was introduced for STS-126, where a crossover assembly was included. This new system linked the 2 pyrotechnic charges in each nut to ensure they detonated within 50 microseconds of each other. A delay of up to 250 microseconds was possible with the previous design, and this was identified as the main issue causing the so-called stud hangups. The shuttle is now free, with the largest and most powerful solid rockets ever used in human spaceflight powering it upwards. Each of the solid rocket boosters provided 13,000 kilonewtons of thrust each, nearly double that of the Falcon 9 first stage. But the very notion of using solid rocket boosters for a crewed space shuttle was initially met with extreme concern. Using solid rocket boosters for human spaceflight had never been attempted before. They were nearly exclusively used for military use. Like the Minuteman ICBM, the solid rocket fuel allowed them to stand ready, available to launch in a moment's notice. However, once ignited, there is little that can be done to stop them. The entire column of propellant is ignited at once. There are no pumps or valves that can lower the fuel and oxidizer being delivered. Once ignited, they stay ignited until all of the propellant is expended. And this, of course, comes with extreme control issues that need to be engineered around. To begin, the engine needs to be throttled back as it expends fuel. As fuel is used, the weight of the rocket lowers. If the thrust isn't lowered, the rocket could exceed its max allowable dynamic pressure and disintegrate. An improperly designed fuel column could make matters even worse, as a simple circular internal cavity will result in an increase in thrust as the fuel is burned. However, many different thrust profiles can be achieved with different shapes. A pointed star cavity will start with higher thrust thanks to the increased surface area, but rapidly decreases in thrust as the points of the star burn down and the surface area decreases. This effect can be increased by increasing the number of points on the star, which is why the igniter had 40. Nearly every illustration online shows the space shuttle solid rocket boosters with a continuous cylinder. If this was the design of the fuel channel, it could have caused issues. The surface area of a circular internal cavity would have increased as fuel was burned, because the cavity's diameter and circumference would be increasing. This was not how the solid rocket boosters were designed. The upper section of the solid rocket booster had an 11-pointed star shape. This shape was created with this mandrel placed inside the upper section before the fuel mixture was poured in. This shape then transitioned into a circular section. However, it wasn't constant in diameter. The diameter increased towards the nozzle. This design provided elevated thrust at ignition when it was needed most, and then reduced gradually to lower the maximum dynamic pressure the space shuttle experienced, with the thrust decreasing by 33% 50 seconds into the flight. When filling the solid rocket booster segments with the propellant, they were filled in pairs, matching with its contemporary segment on the other booster. This allowed the two segments to be filled using the same batch of fuel mixture. So, if there were any inconsistencies in the mix, they would be at the very least consistent on the left and right side of the shuttle, ensuring differential thrust from the boosters would not drive it off course. However, all 5 of the nozzles were capable of thrust vectoring to control the space shuttle during ascent, and 80% of the steering power came from the solid rocket boosters, thanks to their power and increased distance from the central axis of the space shuttle. The space shuttle's aerodynamic flight surfaces played no part in control during ascent, but they did actuate to reduce aerodynamic stress and drag on ascent. 7 seconds after takeoff, with the space shuttle traveling around 140 kilometers per hour, a roll program is initiated through asymmetric thrust vectoring of the nozzles of the solid rocket boosters with actuators mounted inside the aft skirt. Here, there are 2 hydraulic actuators on each nozzle to allow it to move in both pitch and yaw. The space shuttle turns over 180 degrees and pitches 12 degrees off a straight up trajectory, placing the shuttle on a heading towards its assigned orbit, lowering the dynamic pressure on the shuttle's wings and providing the flight crew a view of the horizon out of their windows. Of course, this 180-degree rotation would not have been needed if the space shuttle was simply rotated on the launch pad. But the launch pad was designed for the Saturn V, The position of the service tower and all of the supporting infrastructure associated with it locked the space shuttle into this orientation, and it was simply easier to program a roll than to build a new launch pad. 45 seconds into the flight is over when steering power drive it off course. However, all 5 of the nozzles were capable of thrust vectoring to control the space shuttle during ascent, and 80% of the steering power came from the solid rocket boosters, thanks to their power and increased distance from the central axis of the space shuttle. The space shuttle's aerodynamic flight surfaces played no part in control during ascent, but they did actuate to reduce aerodynamic stress and drag on ascent. 7 seconds after takeoff, with the space shuttle traveling around 140 kilometers per hour, a roll program is initiated through asymmetric thrust vectoring of the nozzles of the solid rocket boosters with actuators mounted inside the aft skirt. Here, there are 2 hydraulic actuators on each nozzle to allow it to move in both pitch and yaw. The space shuttle turns over 180 degrees and pitches 12 degrees off a straight up trajectory, placing the shuttle on a heading towards its assigned orbit, lowering the dynamic pressure on the shuttle's wings and providing the flight crew a view of the horizon out of their windows. Of course, this 180-degree rotation would not have been needed if the space shuttle was simply rotated on the launch pad. But the launch pad was designed for the Saturn V. The position of the service tower and all of the supporting infrastructure associated with it locked the space shuttle into this orientation, and it was simply easier to program a roll than to build a new launch pad. 45 seconds into the flight, something fast is over 180 degrees and pitches 2 hydraulic program is initiated. Aerodynamic flight surfaces played no part in control during ascent, but they did actuate to reduce aerodynamic stress and drag on ascent. 7 seconds after takeoff, with the space shuttle traveling around 140 kilometers per hour, a roll program is initiated through asymmetric thrust vectoring of the nozzles of the solid rocket boosters with actuators mounted inside the aft skirt. Here, there are 2 hydraulic actuators on each nozzle to allow it to move in both pitch and yaw. The space shuttle turns over 180 degrees and pitches 12 degrees off a straight up trajectory, placing the shuttle on a heading towards its assigned orbit, lowering the dynamic pressure on the shuttle's wings and providing the flight crew a view of the horizon out of their windows. Of course, this 180-degree rotation would not have been needed if the space shuttle was simply rotated on the launch pad. But the launch pad was designed for the Saturn V. The position of the service tower and all of the supporting infrastructure associated with it locked the space shuttle into this orientation, and it was simply easier to program a roll than to build a new launch pad. 45 seconds into the flight, something fascinating happens. The space shuttle exceeds the speed of sound, and the sound of those rocket engines can no longer reach the astronauts.
So you don't hear those rocket motors that much anymore behind you. But now you hear the air rushing down the side of the shuttle because you're in the thickest part of the atmosphere, and it sounds like a train howling through a tunnel when that air is going across the rough blankets and tiles on the outside of the shuttle.
And as the space shuttle races higher and higher into the atmosphere, the air gets progressively thinner. Even this sound begins to dwindle away.
For the last 15-20 seconds of first stage, it's just a quiet, very rough ride because you're still on the solid rocket boosters.
And it will get even quieter as the solid rocket boosters reach the end of their fuel supply 2 minutes into the flight. Lowering chamber pressures trigger sensors to begin the separation process. However, if these fail, a backup system based simply on time elapsed takes over. Once triggered, the thrust vectoring system is commanded to return the nozzles to the neutral position, and the orbiter is commanded to maintain its attitude for 4 seconds. The SRBs are attached to the external tank at 4 points, through 3 struts on the lower section of the rocket, and an additional upper connection, each held in place by frangible connections that are severed on command. At the same time, 8 separation motors form the top of the solid rocket and the bottom of the pile. These were also solid 90,000 newtons of thrust. The SRB was safely detached from the shuttle as it continued its flight to orbit. This solid rocket booster separation process was the thing that caught Bruce off guard most on his first flight.
Picture this, you're sitting on top of the explosive bolts that are holding the boosters to the tank. So when those explosive bolts let go, it's a large bang, and then the booster separation motors, which are little rocket motors that fly the boosters away from the shuttle so it doesn't recontact it, those exhausts are aimed right at your windshield. So it's staging, instead of it being this little pop and off you go in second stage, it's this big bang, and then you're in this fireball where the exhaust from the booster set motors are over the windshield, and it's like, geez, did we just blow up? And then very quickly, you get through that, and you can see the nice dark purpleness of space ahead of you. So that's really the only surprise filling that field that I had on my first flight.
At this point, the SRBs are continuing decline in altitude, just slower than the space shuttle. Upon reaching their apogee, roughly a minute later, they will begin their journey back down to Earth, eventually releasing a series of parachutes from its nose cone to slow its descent and land in the ocean to be recovered and reused. Meanwhile, the orbiter is continuing its journey in its second stage of flight.
Second stage is smooth. Matter of fact, most astronauts will call it electric drop. But now's when the G's start to build up, and you're getting pushed further and further back into your seat. And then we throttle the engines back when we reach 3 Gs, because it is a winged vehicle, so there's a lot of aerodynamics going on there. And, for the structural integrity, we go ahead and throttle back to 3 Gs because the wings could come off if you accelerate a whole lot more than that, and that would make for a bad day.
Under the power of the 3 main engines, fed with liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen from the external tank, the shuttle continues its way to orbit. This external tank is a bit of an anomaly. The space shuttle was intended to be fully reusable when it was first conceived, with the fuel and oxidizer tanks incorporated into the orbiter itself. In fact, the space shuttle was envisioned in many forms. Ultimately, funding challenges forced the space shuttle's ambitious designs to be simplified, and the Air Force was approached to bolster funds, influencing the design to stray even further from the original vision, primarily in an increased cargo bay capacity and increased glide range. The external tank was, however, the largest compromise of design. Gone was the idea of a manned external tank that would glide back to land. What would have saved money in the long run simply would have been too expensive to develop, relying instead on an expendable external tank, a massive non-reusable structure that would disintegrate during re-entry. The external tank was heavy. It wasn't simply 2 pressurized tanks. It was a structurally integral component, responsible for transmitting enormous loads. It was the centerpiece of the space shuttle system, the structural backbone, connecting to both the solid rocket boosters and the orbiter. In order to do this, the external tank had to be strong. It was 47 meters long and weighed 33.5 metric tons, empty. Its aluminium skin is reinforced with strengthening rings and stringers. This was essentially a massive thermos flask with its face double skin to insulate the cryogenic fuel inside. Finally, the entire structure was covered in a layer of orange insulation foam, which alone weighs 2.2 tons. The first 2 space shuttle missions featured a white external tank, coated in a fire-retardant latex, which was removed to save a quarter ton of weight. The liquid oxygen tank was located on top of the external tank. It's much smaller than the liquid hydrogen tank, thanks to oxygen's much higher density, and this is part of why the liquid oxygen tank was placed on top of the external tank, as it pushes the rocket's center of gravity higher, an important aspect of stability in flight. If a rocket is traveling straight up, drag and lift acts through...
Why the fuck are you hitting me from behind?
The of the center of pressure is determined by the location of the aerodynamic surfaces and engines, but the rocket rotates around the center of gravity. which is determined by the placement of fans. Because of this, it makes sense to place weight higher on the rocket, as it moves the center of gravity above the center of pressure. Imagine a rocket flying with its orientation aligned with its direction of flight. When a gust of wind knocks it off balance, it introduces an angle of attack, which creates lift acting through the center of pressure, and the rocket rotates around the center of gravity, returning the rocket to its original position. If the center of gravity was below the center of pressure, the opposite would happen, and the rocket would be unstable. So, the dense liquid oxidizer was placed on top of the external tank. This came with the added benefit of allowing the intertank to be placed higher on the external tank, as the hydrogen tank is much larger. The intertank is a load-bearing structure between the two tanks. There is even a massive beam hidden within this intertank, resisting enormous compressive loads as the solid rocket motors attempt to push inwards. The lower support holding the solid rocket boosters takes all of the shear stress created by the upwards thrust of the booster, and so the upper support acts primarily in compression. The forward attachment point to the orbiter is also located on the lower portion of the
How is my teammate not
Of course,
playing?
all of this liquid oxidizer and fuel needed to get to the main shuttle engines on the orbiter. The liquid oxygen exits the tank here. This pipe is massive, 46 centimeters wide, big enough to crawl through. When the liquid oxygen begins to flow, it acts much like water, and with this rate of flow, a massive whirlpool could form. With the weight of all this fluid swirling and sloshing inside the tank, this could cause massive instability issues, or it could even expose the outlet and allow bubbles to enter the engine. So, anti-vortex and anti-sloshing batteries are placed on the bottom of this tank where the oxidizer exits. Liquid oxygen travels down this pipe into the interstage, where it exits and runs along the length of the outside of the liquid hydrogen tank until it meets the primary orbiter connection point. This connection point connects physically to the orbiter, but is also the primary connection for the liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. To the left and right of this truss connection are two invisible plates, which mate directly to corresponding plates on the underside of the orbiter. The left plate provided a connection for liquid hydrogen, and the right plate provided a connection for liquid oxygen. Each also had gaseous lines that brought back gaseous hydrogen and oxygen from the main engine to their respective tanks. This was vital in order to maintain ullage pressure. Ullage is the volume of gas above a liquid storage tank, like the cryogenic liquid oxidizer and hydrogen tanks. The pressure of this volume has to be maintained as the liquid lowers. If the pressure is allowed to lower, the structural integrity of the tanks could be compromised. The gaseous hydrogen used to pressurize the tank was tapped off from the hydrogen fuel line after it went through the regenerative cooling loops of the nozzle here at the outlet of the turbine exhaust manifold of the low pressure fuel pump. Liquid oxygen did not pass through this regenerative cooling system and thus needs to be converted into a gas to pressurize the tanks. It instead was topped off here at the outlet of the main oxygen turbo pump after passing through a heat exchanger around the turbine of this pump. Finally, there were electrical connections on each plate too, made up of smaller electrical wires that provided power to the external tank solid rocket boosters, while also carrying vital telemetry data from each of the orbiter's computers. Finally, there was also the liquid hydrogen recirculation connection, which was only used during the liquid hydrogen engine cooldown sequence before launch, where the cryogenic fluid is circulated through the feed lines, valves, and turbopumps to bring them down to temperature. If this didn't occur, bubbles can form. The time for main engine cutoff is quickly approaching. The process will be triggered by a predetermined velocity target, around 28,000 kilometers per hour. However, it can be triggered by fuel and oxidizer sensors detecting a liquid fluid level. There are 8 propellant depletion sensors. The 4 fuel depletion sensors are located on the bottom of the liquid hydrogen tank. However, the liquid oxygen sensors were located downstream of the feed line, inside the orbiter. There was also an extra 500 kilograms of liquid hydrogen loaded over the required 6:1 oxidizer fuel mixture ratio. Together, these ensured that in the event the main engine was cut off as a result of propellant depletion, that main engine cutoff occurred in a fuel-rich scenario, as oxidizer-rich engine shutdowns severely erode and damage the reusable engines. The time has now come for the main engines to shut down and for the external tank to separate. frangible nuts once again explode to separate the two structures. The external tank begins to float away, leaving the umbilical plates underneath the shuttle exposed, and fixing that is the next challenge.
You've got to close those doors. That's one of the first things you do. And that's very, very critical, because if you don't close those doors, you can't re-enter, because you'll burn up during the entry. And so that's one of the things that we've talked about, we've learned about, but nobody has ever really thought about, or no one has ever really come up with an easy solution. If you had to do an EVA to close those doors, how you'd ever do it? You'd have to do a spacewalk back to the back here somehow, and maybe hold on to there's just no easy way to get underneath there to close those. But we talk about it, and we come up with some ideas, but never had to be done, and there was never a procedure set to do it.
Thankfully, these doors successfully closed on every single space shuttle mission. The external tank is now on its way back to Earth's atmosphere, helped along by a vent opening in the oxygen tank that causes the tank to tumble away from the orbit. With the thrust of the main engines gone, the astronauts have instantly become weightless. A serene moment that filled Bruce with so much joy that he forgot his first job as a rookie astronaut.
Now, we always took a nice close-up picture of the external tank right after MECO, because if you remember, the external tank was the only part of the space shuttle that wasn't reused. You know, the boosters would fly back or splash down in the ocean, we'd throw them back in, refurbish them, the shuttle would come back, but the external tank, as soon as we got off the tank, it would start tumbling back to Earth and break up and burn up, re-entering the atmosphere to splash down little pieces. So we always wanted to take a nice big close-up picture of the tank right after we got off it, to see if there was any abnormality with it that might be generic that we need to fix before the next shuttle took off. So my very first job as a rookie was to, as soon as we got to MECO, instantaneously zero-G, was to get unstrapped out of my seat, float down to a locker by me, get the proper camera out, float up to the overhead window, while Dick Richards, the planner on my first flight, was pitching Discovery over on its back, so that we could take a picture of this tank that's following the way back to Earth. Well, I floated up to the overhead window, and I'm looking outside, and Dick says, "Hey, Bruce, you should be seeing it." And I said, "Yeah, Dick, I do. It's awesome. It's beautiful." He said, "Well, why aren't you taking any pictures?" I said, "Pictures of what?" "Oh, the tank." I was so blown away by seeing Earth for the first time from the space shuttle that I choked on my first job. And, you know, I was supposed to have this great big picture of the tank. Well, by the time I took the picture of the tank, it was like falling away from us. But it was just beautiful. It was just, just seeing the Earth for the first time from space is, you know, probably my most memorable experience.
If you don't already have Nebula, for a limited time, we're offering lifetime, a one-off, one-time payment to get lifelong access to the world's largest creator-owned streaming service. Or maybe you have Nebula already and would prefer to switch over to Lifetime to get away from reoccurring subscription payments. While helping us accelerate growth of our platform,